Sometimes I get better at singing, and sometimes it feels a lot like the weekend. I do my best thinking when I'm drinking.
And welcome to Line Drunk. If you have watched Claim to Fame, you'll know my next guest. If you haven't, you should go watch it right now on Hulu. But if you watch the show, this is X or M Lamar. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lee. I like X a lot, actually. I sort of like, maybe I should officially change my name to X. I think it's really fun.
I think it worked well.
I feel like I've been M Lamar maybe for too long. Like, I feel like you have to, every, I don't know, few years, maybe every 10 years or so, like you shed a skin and become a different skin. So kind of reinvent yourself, reform your identity. I'm in some sort of metamorphosis right now. So maybe X is like the idea. Maybe X will help me in my my shifting, my transformation. Yeah. So what do you want to talk about? We're going to talk about, well, there's Claim to Fame certainly, but then we also we're going to talk about Fleishman Is In Trouble.
Yes. So I did take notes. I just finished watching the first episode.
I love that show. I've rewatched it like many times at this point. I think it's brilliant for so many reasons. Should we start talking about why I think it's brilliant, or do you have a script or questions you'd like to ask me?
Well, before we get into Fleischman Is In Trouble, I keep wanting to say Fleshman. I don't know why, but would you like to say who your celebrity relative is?
Oh yeah, I mean, sure. I think it's not a secret that Laverne Cox. I'm related to Laverne Cox. She's my sister. Yeah, I think she's brilliant. I think she's inspiring. She is, I mean, enduring all kinds of scrutiny that I think, I mean, most people in the public eye endure scrutiny, but she is enduring a different level and different kind of scrutiny because of her identity. And so I think she's extraordinary in holding herself and carrying herself with a grace and dignity. I think she's the best of what Fred Moten calls the Black radical tradition in this very populist culture way. I've always thought of myself as an underground person. And she's definitely above ground. She's outside. She's like in the mainstream with all these like very mainstream eyes on her. And yeah, I love her so much. I think she's extraordinary. I mean, she continues to surprise me. And I've known her, you know, longer than anyone else. So that's exciting. I mean, I'm not surprised. I know she's brilliant all the time, but that she's able to kind of continue to step into this role as an advocate, as a political figure, as well as, you know, a brilliant actress and a brilliant host. She's hosting all these things on her podcast. There's like red carpet things, and she's really brilliant at those things. And a brilliant artist, brilliant actor. And then she's able to also be an activist and an advocate, and to sort of step in the public sphere, the public square, and speak about all the horrifying political things that are happening around LGBTQIA identities and physically trans issues throughout the United States. So it's very, yeah, I'm consistently very moved by her and inspired by her. So yeah, she's my sister.
Oh, cool. Okay, so Fleischman Is In Trouble.
He's in so much trouble. So I mean, why I wanted to talk about, I mean, I think that when I was mentioning the show before, I was like, if you love Jewish people and if you love New York, I think this is just such a very New York show. I think it's a very Jewish show. I think that I didn't actually look at the writer of the show. That's a curiosity to me, because I mean, I feel as if this writer is in a tradition of filmmaking salons, or dare I speak his name, Woody Allen. You can edit that out if it's too triggering for people. But I think there was this thing about Jewish identity being outside of this white waspy identity, but being able to comment on it. I think that the thing those filmmakers have in common, Woody Allen, Todd Phillips, and this show, whoever the writer of the show, I think what they have in common is this take on a kind of white waspy, kind of ruling class, bourgeois whiteness, because they're definitely out on the outside of it. Like there's it's outsider looking in kind of thing. So I mean, as much as it's a show about Toby, and Rachel being divorced, and then sort of trying to negotiate this new divorce life, and like what led to the divorce, and what it is, this dismay that Rachel has about being a mother, which I also love. Like, I love the idea of showing women who just don't have a maternal instinct, who don't find that to be a natural state of affairs. And then, like, I love that. It reminds me, it makes me more empathetic towards my own mother. It allowed me to love her more fully and effectively, because maybe she wasn't cut out for the thing either. That's maybe cool. My mother was actually extraordinary in many ways, and not so. I mean, had challenges in other ways. But I love this show as a show about class. I mean, so much of the conflict they seem to have is about money. Rachel not being for money and desiring it very much, and Toby being very much for money, and sort of like having almost this anti-capitalist, like sort of Bernie Sanders-esque kind of take on capitalism, and being humble. I mean, the daughter is just sort of mortified with the idea that they would, in the first episode, is mortified with the idea that they would get on a bus. It's just so embarrassing, because she was used to sort of living in their very opulent home that Rachel sort of procured for them. But Toby is like, no, we have to be normal people. We have to sort of be able to mingle with the working class, the unwashed masses, as it were. And I think that this tension is like what's really interesting about the show. For me, I think that there's they're able to sort of comment on this white waspy ruling class like thing, and be outside of it, but sort of within it at the same time. I love that show for that reason. What did you think of the show? I mean, what did you think the show was about? I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's really witty and hilarious, and I mean, if you love witty and hilarious and sort of in a high-minded kind of way, what did you think of the first episode?
So before I give you that, the writer is Taffy Brodesser Ackner. She wrote the novel, which I didn't know this was based on a novel.
Yes, I did know that it was based on a novel. And that's a woman, Taffy, or a man? Do we know the gender, or the non-binary? Maybe they're undetermined. The gender.
I mean, I have no idea. It just says like it doesn't say any information on their IMDb page.
Gotcha. And there's no picture that would clue us in to gender identity. But we're post-gender anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're all post-gender. Yeah. What did you think? What was your take on the show? What did you think the show was about?
I had no thoughts going into the show. It was very interesting. It was different. I will say divorce is hard for everybody involved. So I think it's good that they went into that with two different perspectives, showing the dad that cares, because usually it's the mom that is more caring, and she's frustrated with her ex-husband. And I thought it was interesting that the children's characters, how the son is very much like his dad, and the daughter's very much like her mom. And it was funny. I was glad to see Lizzie Kaplan in it.
Is Lizzie Kaplan the friend who lives in New Jersey, the housewife friend in New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen her in anything else, but she's amazing in this. She's like also provides the voiceover for the entire show, which I think is incredible. Her character is really interesting because as I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't seen it, but I mean, her character develops in this very interesting way where she's expressing lots of discontent with this lifestyle that she's chosen, this like married life. I think that there's a script. I mean, I think that what the show is sort of deconstructing, I think, is the script that people follow. I mean, even there's like in the third episode, again, spoilers, but like Rachel is saying to Toby, you have a script. She is an independent, producer of theater, and so she doesn't have, and she's an entrepreneur, she's a woman. She's like, there's no script for me. I have to work all the time in order to do anything. You had, you go to medical school, you have a residency. It's all sort of like mapped out for you. But she's saying there's no script for her to be this career woman and to be, also a mother and all these kinds of. There's no real sort of like playbook for that. And I think that that character, I can't remember her name, but the New Jersey housewife is experiencing that kind of, like, she's kind of gone by the like letting go of her career, having children, being this married suburban woman, and it's not it's not who she imagined she would be when she was younger. I mean, I think the show is also about like what it means to get older, and sort of looking back at your life. I mean, I think all of them sort of were about to turn 40. So there's this thing of like, what is my life? What have I done with my? How has this happened to me? You know, how did I have all these like dreams and aspirations as a young person, and I've just ended up in this like cliche of like marriage and children, and then in Toby, Rachel's case, divorce. And I mean, I think that's one of the things that Rachel's character has developed over the series. It's more of this thing of like, how did this children thing happen to me? How did I let this happen? I want to have a career. I want to have money. I mean, that Rachel didn't come from money. And so she's like, this thing of not having money and Toby not valuing money is not. I mean, I really think that's, I mean, it's about, I think they divorced because of a difference in values, and that difference in values is so much about like, you know, what the role of money is in their life, and being sort of like on the Upper East Side and kind of like experiencing this ruling class thing. Like Rachel seems to long for kind of ruling class, bourgeois, white, waspy sensibility, where Toby is like, you know, he hates the Hamptons, he hates all the sort of trappings of that kind of Upper East Side life. I think it's really, I think that tension is really interesting and exciting, and like, I mean, you know, I think a lot about class and money, and who has it, who wants it, and why it's such a thing in America. Like, why is the American dream so synonymous with the accumulation of wealth and things, and sort of the trappings of kind of a upper middle class, like, you know, lifestyle. And I mean, I think the brilliance of like, you know, other filmmakers like Todd Solondz, and even to a less degree, the American Beauty film from like 1999, I think, is when that movie came out. It's kind of a deconstruction of this thing, you know, or it sort of points to the emptiness of it all. I mean, it even kind of, you kind of think about like those case studies and like that Freud would do about hysterical women, and this kind of almost this claustrophobic thing that happens, I think, particularly to women in domestic, when they're trapped in sort of child rearing domestic circumstances, how they kind of, there's a madness that ensues. There's a kind of like a thing that is that's just not working. And I mean, I'm not heterosexual, but I heterosexuality is such. I mean, it's like imperialism and white supremacy and patriarchy. I mean, sort of compulsory heteronormative kinds of displays in media fascinate me, because it says a lot about what's not working. I mean, like if you sort of engage in like celebrity gossip at all, there's always like some sort of story about like some celebrity couple breaking up because someone's cheated on someone else, and there's this like overinvestment in like monogamy, and it's so interesting, because I mean, we know from more or less that doesn't work. And that there's all this evidence that it continues to not work, monogamy, and yet everyone seems to continue to invest in it. Is if there's not another way of being, or another way of kind of approaching what a relationship could look like. So, I mean, I find this all, you know, sort of, as a queer person who is, you know, not invested. I mean, I'm in a long-term relationship, but it's not a monogamous one. And so we have this radical openness about like, if we are going to engage in activity with other people. And there's straight people who are doing this. Certainly heterosexual people are engaging in polyamory and or open relationships. They're two different things. Polyamory is like, I can't do that, because that's just like, I can't have more than one primary relationship. Polyamory is, you know, when you have multiple partners with whom you are very serious. I can only have one really serious intimate relationship, because I do other things. I think when you're polyamorous and you have multiple relationships, you're just kind of doing the relationships. Like maybe you go to a day job and then you manage all those various relationships. And I can't really do that. But the open relationship model, I think, is one that really works for me. And I don't understand why it's not a more populist thing, because you have all these like sort of stories about, you know, the infidelity and the expectations of fidelity, and it seems so. I mean, heterosexuality seems so bankrupt in that. So I guess heteronormative, you know, monogamous heterosexuality seems so bankrupt. Certainly, there's a different way to do heterosexuality. Anyway, I mean, so I find most. I mean, as an outsider looking at it, I find most. That, I mean, this sort of, I mean, I find Toby kind of on apps really relatable. Like I can relate to this thing of like, I mean, I think that men as they get older become some kind of more desirable in like dating app world. Like I feel like, you know, as a person who's, you know, I don't even look older, but I'm, you know, older. Now, I find that when I go under those things, like there's a desire for me that didn't happen as much when I was younger. And I think that's a really fun thing about the first episode too, all the sort of the dating app kind of scenario, because it's engaging in. And I mean, and this newfound desirability, he's this like, man who's approaching 40, he's a doctor, he's like, this kind of like prize. When he was, younger, he was, not so much. So I like that idea, and I guess what's distressing though is I think it is different for men than women. I mean, women I think maybe are not as desired because of patriarchy and the way the patriarchy works as they get older. I love the idea of people being more desired, because you're a much more interesting person, right? You don't know yourself. I don't know how old you are, but don't you know yourself much better now than you did when you were like a kid? Don't you hopefully you like yourself more.
I think I do, but I think I've gained more confidence mainly because of the podcast. So I feel like that's helped a lot.
Wonderful. So you gain more confidence because of this kind of exchange?
Oh yeah, I would never have been on a microphone before this.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. I think that for a lot of shy people, like starting YouTube channels or just going live on social media has been like a real revelation. I mean, I think actually shy people do better in the YouTube sort of world and the podcasting world. That I think like external people maybe don't work as well online, like people who are extroverts. Maybe don't work. I mean, this is just my own theory. I have no evidence to back this up. This is just my anecdotal sort of thing about like I think that more introverted, more shy people, more quiet people like excel online and excel in this kind of having a YouTube channel or a podcast. And I think it's because of maybe the intimacy, or it allows them to open up in a way that they couldn't maybe in like just like out in the world, like in the IRL situations. I don't know. Do you what do you think about that theory I have? Do you think that's true?
I think, well, maybe, but I think it's just influencers and like podcasters. It's interesting to see. I guess there's good and bad to this, because you see younger children probably getting self-conscious about it themselves, and like having issues at school because of other kids being more popular, or which I mean that was the case before social media, but it's harder now with social media where people can post responses and like.
Yeah. You can also find your tribe though. I mean, I think that is like a car carrying goth for life, like the sort of goth subcultures that I find constantly, and goth people start following me on Instagram or on Twitter or on TikTok. I mean, I'm always like, I think there's a kind of a home that like subcultural people have to find online, because I think that those homes maybe don't exist as much IRL anymore. I mean, like, there's still goth clubs, obviously, and still punk shows and metal shows. I mean, like, my sort of identity is formed very much out of like musical subculture, like goth punk, rock, glam rock kind of things, and those definitely still exist in the IRL way, but they definitely exist online. And so people, I mean, even though there's like that kind of bullying that I think you're talking about, that happens online for a lot of people who are sort of more outcast, there is like also finding your tribe, finding your people, that I think is easy online. And I think it's kind of a revelation. Because we all need community, whether that community is online or whether it's like in person, or if it's family, or I mean, if it's based around certain kinds of music, certain kinds of ways of dressing, desires to certain sensibilities about certain literature. I think that's like really, that kind of subculture really saved my life. Really, having like a scene that I could sort of be a part of was really a big deal, and continues to be a big deal. And that's why I'm always going to rep for like sort of goth, punk, noise, like musical subcultures, because that's really where I found myself, and I found my voice really through those cultures. I mean, certainly, reading philosophy and bell hooks and all that kind of stuff really helped. But it's in terms of my like physical body in space, as well as the sort of gothic and punk subcultures. But I also, sort of grew up in a time, I grew up in Alabama, but I went to San Francisco. Lived my 20s in San Francisco. And that was the time, where there was a queer goth, punk, glam kind of scene happening. And it was really formative for me, like that kind of those groups of people and the groups of bands that I was sort of a part of. And I mean, it's funny, these kinds of shows, and I think that shows that I don't know how you represent that now. I mean, I think that, like, you know, certainly RuPaul's Drag Race is a moment where, like, this thing that's been kind of a subculture of drag has become like this very mainstream thing now. And so that's good. I think that I think it's translated really well into the corporate sort of media world. But I think maybe some other things wouldn't translate as well. You know, some other kinds of subcultures in the corporate media world. I mean, this is like, for me, an obsession. I don't know if you thought this conversation was going here, but like, what is the relationship between kind of subcultural values, styles, sort of countercultural values that kind of emerge from like this sort of 1960s thing, which with the kind of the hippie, and then became kind of this beatnik thing, and then it's what became glam rock in terms of music in the 70s, and then that sort of like with these offshoots of punk, and then sort of goth, sort of post-punk, which encompassed goth music. This is the beginnings of goth music. These things that set me, and then what it became in the 90s with Trent Reznor and that whole thing, the industrial music kind of having a kind of a corporate moment. So I get there those kinds of subcultures that have been able to have corporate moments and be sort of visible to that. But I'm also very interested in subcultures that just can't be visible to a popular media narrative. And if you do media studies, it's probably, maybe this is not the conversation, but like, I sort of feel like I'm not, even though I was on that show, that very corporate show that, like, you know, Disney owned ABC, I feel like I wasn't really visible. Like, I feel like I couldn't really be seen or fully comprehended in the context of claim to fame. You know, I think there's certain kinds of identities that like just aren't legible within a corporate this capitalist structure. Like, they're just illegible to that, and that's really interesting to me. Got sort of like, as someone who's very interested in like ghost and ghost stories and horror, I think it's interesting to have an entity that seemingly exists within a context, but kind of doesn't or can't be fully seen or appreciated or acknowledged or something. I think that is very interesting to me. Like all the sort of things that are in the margins, the shadows of kind of mainstream culture. But yeah, I can't imagine you thought this conversation was going here. I didn't even know I was going to start talking about this, but this is truly one of my obsessions. I mean, that I think that yeah, I mean, I was kind of super ambivalent because I identify as a countercultural person. I was deeply ambivalent about going on a super corporate show like Claim to Fame, and yeah, I think that I sort of I'm going to continue to be ambivalent about it, but I kind of think it's sort of odd curiosity within the trajectory of my life that I, you know, subjected myself to that kind of corporate sort of, I mean, a thing that's set up to be fundamentally invasive. I mean, the 24-hour surveillance of it all. You know, this is big brother format with a big film constantly. I mean, it's all kind of counter to what I kind of every instinct I have to admit to something like that. But it was an interesting experience because it turned out I loved all the people there. Like, I think all the people there were really fascinating and interesting, and I loved them deeply. So, and we still are in touch, all of us. We have like a thread, like a chat function where, like, if it's someone's birthday, someone's like always like happy birthday to whomever. So there's lots of, I mean, I guess maybe it's a summer camp thing where there's this like really utterly unique experience that only the people involved in the experience can like relate to, you know? So maybe it's that kind of thing. Where we'll just be sort of friends for life because of the sort of uniqueness of that particular experience. But you haven't asked me a question. I've just been rambling on. Like, I started with Fleishman, and Fleishman Is In Trouble. And I also love, going back to this, I love how the show starts upside down, like the shot, this sort of panning shot, and there's like a sort of a lot of, I think that happens in the first few episodes, is that it starts upside down, like the world, my life, everything is completely upside down. And I think it's a nice little thing. I think it's sort of shot well and written well, and it's a very literate show. I love that about that show. It's interesting for someone like me who's like so culturally identified to kind of really, you know, I mean, I consume obviously corporate media. I have Netflix accounts and Hulu accounts and Peacock accounts. Yeah. What's your main media fascination, Lee? I mean, as a media studies person, like, what is it that is it reality TV? Since you're talking to a reality TV person, I can't believe I just called myself that. But
Well, there's a lot to take in right now. I think TV mainly, all sorts of TV. I still love movies as well. This show, well, what made you go on this show?
the money, because even I mean, certainly I would get a lot of money if I won the show, but even per episode, it paid not badly, I mean, it just candidly and honestly, yeah. I mean, I'm an underground artist. I don't like. I mean, I make a living, but it's not like like insane money that I make. So I went on to the show for the money, really. I was, I mean, yeah. I mean, I was, I guess, curious about. I mean, once I do very few things in my life for money. Actually, that's maybe the problem. I've really never done anything for money. Like I do everything because I'm passionate about it, or because it's an artistic endeavor that that's going to allow me to sort of develop myself and my person more fully. But I was curious, like going into a context that I was assuming would be hostile, just because of the surveillance and like it's a competition, show, that I was assuming would be hostile to try to see if I wouldn't sort of lose my mind. Because I mean, I think that's like a thing. From what I don't watch reality TV, but what I understand about contestants on reality television shows is they tend to kind of lose their mind there. Context. It's very isolating. You don't have all of your phones taken away, all your kind of contact with the outside world is taken away. So you have to hold yourself together without all the support systems you would normally have, all the sort of doom scrolling or whatever you would be doing on the internet. None of that stuff is there, so you have to sort of. And so I was very curious about, because I've been on a mental health journey for like a very long time, and I was very curious about how. I thought it would be a test of this mental health like wellness thing. Like, will I be able to sort of like have a center emotionally? Will I like lose my mind? Will I go off on people? Will I? And I mean, I didn't want that to happen. I wanted to sort of I want to be a beacon of love and light in my life. And that was an interesting context in which to test that. So after the money, I became really curious about how I could be loving to myself in that context, but also to everyone else in the house. I mean, it's totally a social experiment for sure, but I mean, for me, it was about like, how could I maintain my my mental health, my groundedness, to remain spiritually centered. I think I'm not unhappy with that experimental part of it. I think that I handled. I have no regrets about how I handled myself in that context, that was one of the goals. It's like beyond like winning the whole thing. I mean, the winning the whole thing would have been nice, the money again. But I don't even know if that could have been the main focus for me. I mean, I think the main focus had to be like maintaining a certain amount of integrity, maintaining a kind of a mental stability, in that context. So yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing because being someone who's never done anything for money before, to sort of, be here now talking to you because I did something for money is strange to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but yeah, here we are.
But I've done things for money. Last night I was Ubering and some guy goes, if you speed up, I'll give you $20. And so I went to like 80 miles an hour and he gave me $20.
Oh, there you go. I mean, I was just doing a show in San Francisco. I play music and I'm some kind of avant-garde singer or composer or pianist kind of thing. And it was a lovely show. I mean, it was a great show because I used to live in San Francisco, went to college in San Francisco, and then I spent my 20s in San Francisco. And I was in bands with a lot of people when I was there, like rock bands, rock, goth, punk, whatever bands. And all of my sort of, well, not all of them, but many of my former bandmates who came to the show, and I hadn't seen them in one place in like over 10 years. That was lovely. And someone who came to the show who was, I guess, a friend and a fan, just sort of handed me $300 like after the show. Like, they just handed me money. And I didn't look at it. They were like, "Oh, I just wanted to give you this," and I kind of just, "Oh, it's so sweet." That I just put it up. I didn't know how much it was or what it was. And I got home and I was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "This is crazy." I mean, I'm deeply ambivalent about money, like deeply ambivalent about it. But you know, capitalism isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So we all have rent to pay, we have food to buy, and so as long as we're under this oppressive system of capitalism, people need money. And so I mean, what I guess why I bring that up. I mean, I thought about it because the Uber, the passenger was like, "I'll give you $20 if you get me there really fast." I mean, I think that in my case, if you're sort of within your calling, and your calling isn't like, it's almost like taking a vow of like get like a priesthood vow of like a poverty, like a sort of an intense sacrifice where you kind of don't you let go of certain kinds of material worldly things, in pursuit of your calling. And I guess what was nice about that is that, like, oh, the universe says we'll continue to support you in your calling financially, and that's a thing that it's like lovely. So yeah, that one can have a calling that is not sort of legible within the imperialist, like capitalist patriarchy, and particularly capitalism isn't sort of producing commodities and or services or ways in which you can sell yourself to corporations, to me, because they seem to have all the money, right? Like this, if you can, no way of selling yourself to corporations in some way that but if you're in your calling, that the universe takes care of you somehow. I guess it was like a reminder that that's, I guess, the case of just handing me. I mean, $300 isn't like it's a life-changing money, but
it's still a lot. Okay, back to Fleishman Is In Trouble.
How are you going to edit? This is just such a mess. I should have warned you.
I do not change anything. I don't edit anything out. I edit out like blank spots, but that's it.
I should have warned you. Like I digress. I just digress.
That's okay. First of all, how did you not know who Lizzie Kaplan was? Did you not watch Mean Girls?
Oh, she's in Mean Girls. I did watch Mean Girls. I mean, that was a long time ago, and Mean Girls wasn't a thing I watched repeatedly. I mean, I know it's a film that many people watch. I think I watched it once when it came out, and that was it.
Yeah, I watched it a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know it's a thing for like a lot of women and homosexuals to repeatedly watch Mean Girls. But it wasn't. It was fine. Like I'd watched it, and it was. But so she's. Yeah, I don't even remember her. I don't honestly remember that much about Mean Girls. Honestly. I mean, I know that Lindsay Lohan was in it, right? Yeah.
She was. Tina Fey's brilliant. That's all. Her writing's great.
That's right. And Tina Fey, like, yeah, it's her brainchild. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it, but it wasn't like I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, do I have pop cultural obsessions? Because I mean, someone who's sort of like more underground. I mean, I love professional wrestling. Do you watch like the WWE or like AEW or the kind of professional wrestling? I'm obsessed with Ric Flair. I mean, even though he's deep problematic in many ways. The Undertaker in the WWE. I mean, they're kind of my pop cultural obsessions.
I don't think I've watched wrestling since I was like 10.
Yeah, I watched it last night. I went to it when I was a child, maybe I was 8 or 9 in Mobile, Alabama. We went to see Ric Flair wrestling the Universal Heartthrob Austin Idol. And I was riveted by the experience. I love professional wrestling, but professional wrestling is interesting because the heel, I don't know if you know how it works, there's the heel or the villain, and then there's the baby face. And I tend not to be, I mean, in some like a Stone Cold Steve Austin is very much like what is that guy's name? Son of a plumber. It'll come to me. Dusty Rhodes. They're the kind of the ultimate baby faces because they're these everymen that all of these, it's not primarily white straight men who consume this, particular kind of culture. And so professional wrestling gives them these kind of everyday, son of a plumber men they can relate to. But it's always the pretty boy ones that I love. You know, but Undertaker's in a pretty point. He's my favorite all-time wrestling. It's the whole gothness of it all. The Undertaker, but like Ric Flair and Matt Riddle now, Dolph Ziggler. I love these sort of like long hair, like sort of, you know, sexy, pretty kind of wrestlers. Anyway, that was a very serious digression in terms of, but, you know, if you're talking about Mean Girls and pop culture sections, yeah, it's not that for me. It's not. I'm trying to think of like if there's pop music even that I'm obsessed with. I mean, I kind of have a fascination with Iggy Azalea. I'm sorry, Azalea Banks. Not Iggy Azalea. I know just an Iggy Azalea. That was a I really seriously misspoke there. Azalea Banks is very fascinating to me. And she's very much a pop. She's a little more underground though, and she's not like a mainstream figure. Like Megan Thee Stallion, she's like a pop cultural kind of figure that
I do like her a lot, and I respect that she finished college, and then she bought or opened her own business, like for all her friends that she went to school with to work at.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's all that stuff, but I just think she's a great rapper. Like, I love all her, that like, you know, freak nasty. I love that song. Yeah, I think she's great. I think she's sort of a genius, like, and she can perform. Like, I feel like a lot of the really skilled rappers they're more studio figures, you know. Megan can really put on a show. And she, you know, can really rap. Anyway, I'm trying to think of other. Anyway, but yeah, I'm not like I'm not obsessed with pop culture in the way that like I think a lot of homosexual.
Let's be real honest. Most of the people on Claim to Fame did not know anything about pop culture anyway.
Yeah, no, I think actually the one who won, I think did LC. I think she was.
LC knew a lot. Pepper knew quite a bit.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone else knew much.
I didn't. I told them I don't follow celebrity. Like I just don't care. You know, that's like not really my zhuzh or something. It's not really my my wheelhouse. Yeah, celebrities aren't really. Yeah. So I mean, I was really totally a fish out of water, but I do think I'm sort of like a curiosity in terms of my my presence. You know, as brief as it was, I think I was a curiosity for people. They were sort of like I didn't make it, which I think, you know, I delights me that I didn't make any sense to people. They were kind of like trying to figure out like what was going on. They can't complain to me, and I appreciate that because it reflects who I am. It reflects. I think there's something about being illegible as a Black person in imperialist white supremacist patriarchy that's very empowering. It's very satisfying to not be kind of read, to be understood or read. I mean, I think that there's so many sort of stereotypes about being a Black man or being like queer or being, you know, all these things, and to just be kind of confusing, I think is it delights me. Like I think all this sort of people thinking I was a vampire, I thought was hilarious. I mean, all these things. I mean, you know, like I think that the thing about being like a kind of, I mean, like Grace Jones, I'm obsessed with Grace Jones. I mean, one of the things she delights in is just her, how confusing she was. I mean, she has a story about being in bed with like whoever played James Bond when she was doing the James Bond film, and there were these kind of weird jokes about, was she a man or she a woman or whatever, and she like strapped on some dildo or something when they were in bed together, and he sort of felt the dildo, and he was kind of like, what's going on, and that just delighted her, you know. I think that I really delight in watching people sort of react to me. Little Richard, I remember like there was an interview with him where he was talking about arriving in London and people in the airport like just like losing their mind, like who is that? Like what is that person? Like I sort of delight in that kind of thing too, like just being utterly confusing to people. I think that when you're like an eccentric, I think that would be fair to say I'm some sort of eccentric. I think we delight in that. And I think actually Grace Jones in that context was critiquing Lady Gaga. Like it seemed, I think that Grace was assuming that Gaga didn't have the same delight in being, you know, sort of wearing crazy clothes and being that sort of the unusual eccentric that I think Grace delights in, thinking that it had to be like a sort of a thing that you just delight in. You just sort of luxuriate in how confusing it is to like, you know, normal people, you know, the normies, as it were. Yeah. Anyway. Wait, where were we talking? I feel like it's my job to bring us back to where we were, since I think it's so far afield. We were talking something about claim to fame, and oh yeah, not no one know anything about pop culture, but Elsie did.
Yes, she did.
Um, yeah, I think that I was kind of like confusing to people. I think that like, I mean, I remember, I think that the Britney kind of like, her initial kind of thing with me was like, I may be worried that I was some sort of like Satan worshiper or something. I think that, I mean, I think that she kind of had that kind of, but then we ended up really liking each other, actually. I adore her. And I think that she, yeah, was sort of surprised that I wasn't sort of devil worshiping, whatever. Just her first impressions are. Yeah, I kind of delight in all that. I delight in whatever people's first impressions are, and then not necessarily like changing their mind, but just being, fully dimensional. Like a fully dimensional person is never like what they appear to be. And so, every person, there's like an onion. You peel back more layers and you cry. That's what it is to, and you peel back layers and you cry.
Are you ready for a trivia question from the show?
Oh God. Is this one that I got wrong on the show? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm asking about Fleishman Is In Trouble.
Oh, better. Okay, yes.
How long were he and Rachel married?
12 years.
15 years.
15 years. It was 12 years that he had seen the woman who was a Mean Girl. That's what I was remembering. Yeah, he hadn't seen her in 12 years because she got married after he did. So that was what I was. But yeah, 15 years. Yeah, very good. Yeah. So maybe I've only watched it like 5 times. So I just missed that like really important fact. What's your next trivia question?
Okay. Well, this one isn't a question, but you brought it up earlier too. What kind of mom drops her kids off so she can go to yoga for the weekend?
I mean, I think a mother who's deeply ambivalent about not about being a mother, a woman who wants to, sort of spread her wings in the world in a way that she couldn't. I really, really, really deeply identify with her non-maternal instinct. I think we need more representations of women who just don't have it, who just don't have that gene. So many women don't. So many women would be better off realizing that and not having children. I mean, it's not going to be good for the children, if you're like a mother should really not be a mother. I think that's something that happens in Succession too. I mean, I think the mother of the Roy children, I think she says at one point to the daughter, "Oh, I shouldn't have been a mother." I mean, it would have been much better if she wasn't cut out for it. Like, I think that this assumption that just because you can do it, you have the equipment to reproduce doesn't mean you should. Someone actually asked me, a woman asked me years ago for my sperm because she wanted to have like babies or whatever. And I said, absolutely not. My sperm is to be, swallowed orally by some really pretty boy, or should be a part of their face care routine, skincare routine. It should not be fertilizing an egg. I'm sorry, I got rid of hip scenes. You can edit that out.
That's okay. I take nothing out. What does the daughter say to her dad about the clothes?
About the clothes, like which clothes? Like her clothes or his clothes? Or
he's like, they're in the kitchen. He says, "Your mom packed you clothes," and he pulls out clothes, and she says something to him.
Those are for the Hamptons. Oh, those clothes aren't for the, or something like they're not for, they're for the Hamptons or something, or I couldn't wear those to the Hamptons. I mean, she was very much, yeah, as he was saying earlier, she's very much a mother's daughter. She has like class aspirations and class. I mean, so much of like class too is a kind of performance in a show, Like, I mean, I think that what I love about the show is it kind of just seems to pull the veil. I mean, unless you're like fully ruling class, like being part of the petty bourgeoisie, we're upper middle class, where you have sort of kind of have money, but not wealth, not like intergenerational wealth. I feel like there's this constant kind of like reaching for that kind of thing. And I went to Yale. Like I was around like people who were grasping. I was around people who had generational wealth, and then people who were grasping for it. and it's so sad. Like people grasping for it, it's just such a sad state of affairs. I mean, I identify with both Rachel and Toby. I mean, I identify with her not being able to be a mother and not having that instinct. And with Toby, his kind of critique of like capitalism and the ruling class and the sort of the bourgeoisie. I really identify with that, with him, like trying to sort of instill in his daughter like values that weren't about like why don't you buy a car? She would be like, why don't you have a car? Like why can't we take a cab? I mean, just her whole like kind of bitching about like appearing poor. I mean, it's almost like it's fine to be poor, but to appear poor is like this kind of like, this cardinal sin. I mean, there's so many poor people in the world who don't want to appear poor. And I mean, I think that there are other, I mean, beyond the kind of critique of like of money, I think there's something deeper about that. I mean, I think that often opportunities are withheld from you if you don't seem as if you belong in certain sort of contexts or certain kinds of rooms. And I mean, maybe appearing poor and not having certain kinds of mores of people who have money, meaning that you don't have certain opportunities. So I get that like it can be limiting if you appear poor, in terms of like, various kinds of things that can happen in your life. Some kinds of mobility. Because I mean, I think that one of the things that I guess money gives you that Rachel seems to understand is a certain amount of mobility. But then Toby already had that. I mean, Toby went to great schools. He was from money. He had a mobility, so he could kind of be in this place of critiquing this like whole thing about money, because he had a mobility. I think the thing that not having money means for you is that you don't have some kind of mobility. I think I'm someone who can say solidly I don't have money, but maybe because of my education, maybe because of what I do for a living, I feel like I have a certain amount of mobility. Like I could be hanging out with like crust punks like on a street corner, sort of one moment, and then like ruling class people at an art opening or at events, through me, at another moment. So, I mean, I think it's the thing about being able to like be mobile in the world and like have, I guess, mobility is what everyone sort of desires in this American context, because we have no critique really of class in the United States, not in the ways that the UK has and other parts of the world have critiques of class and the way class works. So anyway. And one of the things I just love about that show, I think it's just so much about the ruling class and about being, a part of the petty bourgeoisie, that the show explores and is about, and it does it in such a funny way that is in a grand tradition of, I think, like Jewish filmmakers, writers, because of their proximity to WASPness, but their distance from it, the white WASP identity. Yeah. Do you have more show trivia? Maybe I'll get it right or wrong.
Oh, I have several notes.
Yes.
Where did he take the kids that morning?
He took them to work with him to the hospital. But then they went to the Hamptons.
No.
Oh no, summer camp? When he took them to summer camp? Oh
no, the very first episode.
The children, he takes them. Oh, the 92nd Street Y. Yes.
Do you live in New York?
I do live in New York. I live in Brooklyn. I live in Bushwick. And I've been to the 92nd Street Y before. I have. His take on the 92nd was so hilarious. I mean, I guess like sort of disdain for it. It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant. I really think people should watch the show. Like, it's hilarious. I'm not on the payroll or anything. I just like enjoyed the show. I really did. Yeah, the 92nd Street Y is where it's the first episode. Yeah, I mean, spoilers. Give me, if you haven't watched the show, I apologize because I feel like I've given stuff away.
Okay.
Hopefully, you'll be intrigued to watch it after you hear from the top of that.
Okay, so what did his wife Rachel do?
She was an agent, a talent agent for independent artists, independent theater artist, and I guess her main client was sort of a faux. It was kind of like a spoken word performance artist who kind of did a piece that would seem to be a synth with Hamilton. That was like this who took New York by storm, the theater world by storm. And so she was traveling all around the world with this artist who was doing something very similar to Hamilton. Hilarious. Like all that stuff was so hilarious. Yeah.
You know his name and the name of the show.
Toby Fleishman and Fleishman Is In Trouble. Oh no, the show. I don't remember the What was the name of the show? I don't remember that. It's something presidential, the presidents or something. Maybe it was like something like that.
Presidentrix.
Presidentrix. That was close. I was close. Like Presidentrix. Yeah. Anyways, but very much descended, I think, in Hamilton. I think. Hilarious.
And
Yeah.
the star was Alejandro Lopez.
Which is like the dude who wrote Hamilton, who's also Latinx, right? What is his name? Who's the guy who wrote Hamilton?
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
There you go. Total student of Hamilton. Yeah. Hilarious.
I saw Hamilton in Chicago.
I have not seen Hamilton. Don't think I will. I'm not. I can't say that I'm interested. But I also don't like musical theater.
I've only been to New York one time. I will say this: I prefer Chicago, but I also didn't know where I was going in New York.
Oh, you prefer Chicago City to New York, the city?
Like Chicago was easier for me to get around. I've been there twice. New York was, and it was fun. I had a good time. And this people make.
Did you have like when you first came to New York? Did you have someone here showing you around?
I had nothing. I came alone. I went for Christmas so I could see the Rockettes and see the Christmas tree and see some shows. But the best show I saw in New York, and if you get a chance, you should go see this, is The Play That Goes Wrong.
The Play That Goes Wrong.
Yeah. You what?
If it's not a musical, I will go see it.
It's not a musical. I think it's off Broadway now.
Okay. I love Broadway.
It's based in London, and they do like 4 shows in London and a TV series. But this is the one that came to America. It's really good. I've seen it 3 times. It is nonstop laughter for 2.5 hours.
Wow. I mean, in terms of like liking Chicago more, I think you do need like someone who lives here to kind of take you. New York is, I mean, I think arguably is the most fun city in the entire world. I mean, and I haven't been in every city in the world. I mean, I've been around. I've traveled a lot. I mean, mostly all over Canada, all over the United States, all over Europe. I still haven't been to Africa. I still haven't been to like Mexico or South America. So lots of places to see in the world. But as far as where I've been so far, New York is extraordinary. I mean, culturally, it's amazing. There's just fun if you want to like be in a nightclub or if you want to see music. I mean, the first time I came to New York, I was in college. So, and maybe I was 20, maybe I was 19, 20, maybe I was 20 or 21, maybe. And my sister was living here, so she was kind of like my intro into some kind of, I guess, the nightlife scene, whatever. In Europe, I was up all night. I guess spent a semester here, like studying, like doing independent study in New York for like 6 months. I had the time of my fucking life. It was so much fun. I was like, this is the most incredible city ever. So I mean, I'm so sad to hear that your experience was not like that. My first time in Chicago, I went to Chicago when I was in high school, and I did not like Chicago. My first time there, and I've been back many times, and it's fine. I mean, the last time I was in Chicago was maybe 2018. I was playing a show there, and it was a fine city. But I just don't think even compares remotely to New York. I kind of thought I didn't want to become one of these people who's like, New York is the greatest city in the world. You know, that happens to a lot of us when we live here.
Right.
But I've kind of become that person. Like whenever I, so I was just in San Francisco this weekend. I was there for like, well, this whole past week. I just got back Saturday. This whole last week I was working on a new piece and I did a show. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I was so relieved to be back in New York. I mean, it's typically how I feel when I come back, except when I go to Berlin. I love Berlin. Berlin is, it could take me away from New York. It could. Berlin is so much fun. That in terms of just sheer fun. Maybe, I mean, it might be more fun than New York. Yeah, Berlin.
I had a good time in New York. I think it would have been better if I had someone that show me where to go and what places to,
take you restaurants, take you to neighborhoods. I mean, were you in Manhattan the whole time? I mean, I think that the Brooklyn is way more. Like Brooklyn is extraordinary. Brooklyn is everything. I mean, I love Brooklyn culturally. I mean, New York, there's so much diversity in New York. I mean, like that. I mean, London has a certain amount of diversity. Berlin is somewhat diverse, but I mean, there's nothing like New York. New York is just incredible. I'm a huge advocate for New York. For myself, I mean, I don't know if that's always going to be the case, but I don't drive. I mean, so the public transportation thing and the way to get around here is so easy, and I love the subway. Actually, I love being in the subway. I love people watching on the subway. I think it's incredible. Like I love cities. I'm a city person. I'm not a suburban person. I'm not a nature person. And if you love cities, New York is kind of the ultimate city. And Berlin's close. I really enjoy Stockholm. I really loved Malmo and Gothenburg in Sweden when I was there. I like Copenhagen a lot. Prague is gorgeous. But nothing's like New York. That's also really fun thing about the Fleishman Is In Trouble show. I mean, it's only a part of New York, right? The Upper East Side, but it says a lot about, like you get a lot of sense of. I guess the Upper East Side is because wasn't Sex and the City mostly like focused on the Upper East Side? Didn't like I never really watched it, but I knew people who like were obsessed with the show, and I feel like it was like mostly focused on the Upper East Side. Right?
I have no idea. I watched one episode for class.
Yeah, it's not a show that was especially interesting to me. I feel like I would see bits and pieces of it, and I was just like, ah. I mean, I think partially because of the main character was so annoying. Like, what was it? Sarah Jessica Parker, whatever that character's name was, Carrie.
I was
So
in high school when it came out, so it wasn't something I was like, oh, I'm going to go home and watch this.
Yeah.
I was watching Friends.
It's really dated. I never watched Friends either. Did I watch TV? I mean, like, at that point, I mean, the only 90s show I remember watching with any interest was Frasier, just because I loved how sort of gay they both were, like Niles and Frasier. Like I thought they were just. I loved the kind of gayness of it all. I mean, it turned out the Niles character is gay in real life, but they were both very gay and kind of like obtuse, like, pretentious characters. I sort of loved that about them. It's the only show I can remember watching in the 90s, really.
That show is being rebooted.
Frasier, really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I don't know if I'm interested in a reboot, but yeah, I did enjoy that show. And the kind of class tension between. I'm really interested in class tension between the father and their sons. Like that shows a lot about that tension between this kind of working class thing, sort of petty bourgeois, kind of aspirational kind of class thing. I mean, Niles and Frasier, I mean, they have money, but it's not like Dr. Money. I mean, what I love about Fleishman Is In Trouble, Dr. Money isn't like Elon Musk money. You know what I mean? It's like money, but it's not like, money. It's not like intergenerational wealth money. And so, yeah, I mean, Frasier and Niles are kind of in that petty bourgeoisie place of what money, and their father's this working class police officer. I love. I mean, I guess that's what was interesting about Downton Abbey for the brief moment I watched. I never finished the series, but what was interesting is the class tension, and the UK does that better than anyone else. Like I think, like sort of tensions between various classes of people. I mean, I think that's like more. I think there should be more stuff about class in the U.S. context, because there's like a real divide right now between the extremely wealthy and the rest of us. I think there should be more art around that in the U.S. context, but I just don't think people. I think that the myth of the dream is so much like we can't be critical of people with money because we want to one day be that person with money, and the likelihood of that happening is just very small. But the aspirational thing, the dream, seems to be so caught up in the fact that everyone can eventually have money in this country that like there can't be a real substantial critique of how class works and how money really works. I mean, Bernie Sanders was the only sort of presidential candidate I ever had any interest in because of his analysis around wealth and income inequality. That was the most sort of poignant political kind of position that I've seen in my lifetime. Maybe besides the Green Party in 2008, I found it compelling too. Those two, I can't remember their names, but these two Black women were running in 2008. The Green Party, and I felt their critiques of the system as it wasn't working was compelling. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, the show. I mean, I'm very interested in class and inequality and why it is that things are so unequal in terms of class, and then how it, of course, sort of plays out around race and gender stuff.
In this show different levels of wealth.
Now, Fleishman Is In Trouble or Claim to Fame?
Fleishman Is In Trouble. I keep wanting, yeah.
Fleishman. Yeah, I mean, I think that the show is so much. I mean, it's mostly focusing kind of. well, somewhat well-to-do, you know, like at least, you know, middle class, well-to-do, like white people, Jewish white, you know, white Jewish people. So not that kind of diversity, but I think there was a lot of, yeah, I mean, it's very much about like, you know, sort of waspy ruling class aspirations, and or not, you know, I think Toby very much didn't want that. I mean, he kind of hated all the trappings of all of that kind of life. And it made him kind of, I think, likable, but then as the show unfolds, like I mean, I think that Toby's very likable initially, and then it gets maybe slightly less likable as it goes along. And I won't say more because I don't want to spoil it for people or for you. If you're gonna go watch the whole thing, do you think after watching the first episode, are you intrigued?
Oh, I'm intrigued. I'll watch it.
I think Toby becomes less. I'd love to talk to you again actually once you see the whole thing, and I would like to see if you agree that he becomes slightly less likable as the show goes on.
Okay.
I mean, likable at all in the first episode. I mean, too, that could be you could not find his like sexcapades, his like sort of tortured, or his food things. I mean, that you know, he's very much like they were like, do you want bread? I think they were like, do you want bread or oh no, you want fries with that? He kind of just laughed and said no, and then no bread. Like I find that very relatable. But still, I also take away from it.
Well, Pepper, when I talked to her, she said that you wish there was a vitamin you could take instead of eating.
That's true. I find sort of having to take the time to eat during the course of the day very inconvenient. I think that, I mean, it seems like we're so advanced. I mean, with cell phones and the way technology works now in our kind of like Star Trek future world. I mean, are we kind of a Star Trek future world where we could just like, you know, press a button and a pill would come out and we could just take it and we have all our nutrients and we could just get on with it? We would have to sort of like, I don't know. I mean, I just moved into a new apartment and I kind of have these like regimented things I eat. Like I kind of, like having like a meal prep service or whatever, like we have things delivered that's just ready to eat. I don't like having to think about food. I don't like having to think about like it also takes a lot of time. I find it very inconvenient, food. Yeah, I mean, I know people really enjoy eating. Like they find it pleasurable or something. I mean, but it really is just necessary. You know, we need it to fuel our bodies. So if we're trying to do things like if I'm trying to sing or perform or, you know, I exercise every day. I need fuel to do that, so food, you know, is necessary. Like sleep is necessary. And now that sleep I love. I wish I could get more sleep. I feel like someone who would like to just take a pill to eat would also like not to have to sleep. But I do love sleeping. I don't feel like I sleep enough, but I take sleep aids, and I feel like I still can't really fully sleep more than like 4.5 hours a night, which is very distressing to me. And it's one of my projects to figure out how to get more sleep consistently, because then I end up taking naps during the day. Which is thinking if I'm working on like last week I couldn't do that because last week I was like fully like, you know, every day of last week I was like in rehearsals for like hours and hours and hours of time. So like I couldn't do my like midday nap. I mean, often I can, you know, if I'm like, you know, couldn't do that on the show. I mean, the midday naps are not, they're not conducive to like when I'm like in a heavy work space. And so, yeah, I want to figure out how to get more consistent sleep all in one time, as opposed to like having to break it up. And I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know why my body can't just turn off. My mind can't turn off like consistently for like, I would take like a good 6 hours. If I could just sleep I mean, 7 or 8 or 9 would be amazing. My boyfriend, he can just sleep. I mean, he just sleeps forever. I mean, he can sleep for like 12 hours, like easily, you know? I just can't really. I don't know why. I want to fix that. I want to fix that.
Ready for the next trivia question?
I am ready for the next trivia question. Yes.
What was the name of the physical therapist he hooked up with?
Oh, wow. I have no idea, but she was she the woman who's on the blacklist? Samir, is that her name? Do you watch the blacklist? Do you watch that show?
I've never watched it.
And was the curly haired woman? No, she was the woman. Okay, so the woman on the blacklist is the woman who was married. Oh, maybe that doesn't happen in the first episode. So never mind. The physical therapist. What was her name? You're asking me?
Yeah, so he's at the Y talking to some lady, and she has a necklace, and it makes him remember the necklace the physical therapist was wearing, and he was trying to think of her name.
Because he had only seen breast and a thong and all those kinds of things. That was his. That's a great episode. I think it's hilarious, that episode. You should really. I mean, especially on the dating. If you're on dating apps, I had no idea what it is, but if you're on dating apps, I really think you'll think it's hilarious. And I mean, I'm obviously not on heterosexual dating apps, but it's this crossover, with like the homosexual ones and the. But I don't. What is her name? The physical therapist. I really had no idea.
Jenny.
I guess I mean, I guess my I guess that more like I have a great memory for like overall themes and the big picture rather than the minutia of the names and their yeah. You're making me feel inadequate to remember these things, especially since I've watched the show.
It's okay. I like to ask random questions.
Yeah. No, thanks for making me feel like shit about myself.
What did they were over at that couple's house and the guys were all sitting outside drinking whiskey.
Yes.
What did he say about the whiskey? Well, not Toby, but the host of the party.
I remember it being hilarious, and I don't remember what he said. No, I don't remember what he said.
He said that Roman monks made it, and they make 8 cases a year.
That's right. This show's
not cheap.
It's really I remember that now. Yeah, it's just because it's the guy's house, and is he the guy who's I feel like I can't ask that question because I don't want to give things away. Because people should watch it. So I mean, I think that all the sort of throughout the series, so there's going to be these instances where they're at parties with rich people. I mean, that's again, I think Woody Allen does really well. And I know it's canceled and everything, but he does like critiques of like the pretentiousness of rich people at parties so well throughout his career. Anyway,
I will say I'm not a big Woody Allen fan. I've just didn't care for any of his movies, but I think it's interesting of everyone canceling him, but yet people still want to be in his films.
They do. I mean, I think that we can. I mean, like Roman Polanski is similarly a bit, potentially horrific human being, but a brilliant artist. I mean, I think that we can. I would like to think that we can say Woody Allen is a brilliant filmmaker. I think he's a brilliant filmmaker, but that he's an awful human being. I mean, Miles Davis is he's one of the greatest musicians that America's ever produced. I mean, he's like innovative, like genius with music. But I think we can say he was a horrible human being. I think both things can exist. Wagner, who I love.
I guess more so with the whole Me Too movement and people coming out about that, but then they still do.
Yeah.
Alan.
I mean, me acknowledging he's a brilliant filmmaker doesn't mean that I would want to be associated professionally. Right. That we're at a place, and I think it's a good place where there are actual professional consequences for some people, maybe not Woody Allen, but professional consequences to your behavior, where you won't be able to have access to everything that you had access to before. Maybe that, but I guess that's the very point you're making, that Woody Allen isn't paying the price in terms of people not wanting to be in his work, which is.
I get it, because I was thinking of R. Kelly too. Not a good human being, but I still have his music on my playlist.
I mean, he was a genius. I mean, he's still alive, so I guess he is a genius with the music. I mean, he just is. But he's like despicable. He's like a heinous, exploitative, like predator. So he's sociopathic. I think not a stretch. I think some kind of sociopath for sure. Definitely a predator. Definitely, a rapist. I mean, you can be all those things and be a brilliant artist. I mean, those things aren't mutually exclusive. I mean, I don't want to suggest that you have to be a sociopath to be a brilliant. Like you do. It just so happens that many sociopaths and predators and horrible human beings and rapists are also brilliant artists. Many brilliant artists are not any of those things, though. So yeah, one doesn't equal the other.
Okay, ready for your next question?
I am.
What did Toby say his favorite movie was? And then what did Libby, she's the one that was narrating, say it actually was?
Yeah, I loved that. And I don't remember. I mean, I think he said this. I think his favorite movie was Jurassic Park or something really stupid. Some really stupid, like chain movie, but then I think he said something really like arty and kind of, fancy sounding. I don't remember those specifically. I remember very well because he's doing the dating profile thing. He's saying, his favorite foods are these things, but like he really likes chicken with no oil and no flavor or something like that. But what is his favorite movie versus what he
So
said?
he said it was The Graduate, but it really was Twister.
That's right. That's what it was.
Which I do like Twister.
I've never seen Twister.
You should watch Twister. It's good. It's a fun action film.
I generally like action films. Like I like that. I mean, I'm not so obtuse. I enjoy silly action films. I mean, if you were asking me my favorite action film, I would say The Matrix, because I think that's qualified as an action film. There's lots of action in it. There's also science fiction.
Well, and I say Twister's action. I mean, it's about a tornado, so like they're always on the run trying to catch the tornado.
Gotcha. So there's lots of activity.
Lots of activity.
But I mean, The Matrix is fun because there's like fighting. The first Matrix, at least. I mean, the subsequent fun too for that, but the first one is really, I think, super genius. Yeah, as far as action films go. And that's before they got into all the CGI stuff. I think the subsequent movies they started relying more on CGI versus like all the wiring that they were doing for the action, which is, I think, is much more compelling.
I think CGI is getting to be too much, and it's not looking good.
Doesn't look good at all. I don't think it ever has actually. Yeah, we should try to avoid that, but not possible. So I want to get a trivia question right. Do you have like a trivia question that I'll get? I guess yeah.
I'm working my way down. This is not a trivia question, but I thought it was really funny. So Toby is a liver specialist.
Yes.
And he's with his residents. And one of his residents is talking about the patient. He keeps calling her an alcoholic. But at the end, he says, I'm sorry, she's an alcoholic American.
She's an alcoholic American. I mean, one of the great things about specialists is he sort of sings the praises of the liver, like how forgiving the liver is, like how it can take all of this abuse and it still kind of come out on the other side. It's like tragic, and sad. Also genius. It's a genius kind of take, like filter of all these things. So fun. It's such a fun show. So, just love it.
Well, I did write down as one of my trivia questions, but you already answered it, what Libby's job was. But you said she was a housewife in New Jersey.
Yes, but she did work for a magazine before she became a housewife in New Jersey. And that was one of the dreams. As the show progresses, it's one of those things she kind of gave up, like this thing of being a writer. Anyway, her story develops really, she's a really interesting character, actually, Libby. Her story develops in a really interesting way. Yeah, and Rachel's develops in a surprising way, actually. Okay. But I won't tell you how it's surprising and interesting and fascinating.
Okay, so what did Toby say that his wife wouldn't let him do at the house?
Pee standing up.
Correct.
Look at that! I got one right. That was because he was talking about the dating apps. He's like, man, at 60, they were talking about his closing rate as far as dating goes. And he's like, oh, maybe 60%. And his friend's like, it should be 100%. And he's like, well, but excuse me, I'm coming out of a relationship where my wife wouldn't let me pee standing up. So genius. I mean, kind of misogynist, though. I mean, kind of like, if as a feminist to me, it's like, we're painting her as this sort of like, castrating, sort of masculinity stealing woman. Yeah, but a lot of churchmen seem to want that. Like a lot of, at least the way they're represented in media, I shouldn't say actual churchmen, but the way that they're represented in the media seems to be that they want to be castrated at a certain level. Anyway, that's controversial. I hope I don't get canceled for saying that. Anyway, go on.
Okay, what did Seth say about the ages on dating apps?
That 29 means 35. Maybe that's not an exact quote, but that everyone rounds down for about 5 or 6 years. Is that I'm paraphrasing that? I'm in the ballpark, right?
Well, you are, and I was going to say he said that no one is 29 or 39. That those ages don't exist.
Just don't exist. That's right. They just don't exist. No, it's true. And so if you want someone who's actually, I don't know, in their early 30s, you want to say your lowest age, somewhere around 24, 25 or something, which is so true. I mean, if you've been on any of those apps, everyone's just a little younger than a little older than they say they are. And no one's actually 29 or 30 yet. Yeah.
Okay, so I did, this isn't a trivia question, but I appreciated that the show shows all different types of women that he's hooking up with instead of just like model types.
Yes. I love that too. And he even like, I mean, he talked about like not wanting to be with like a 20-year-old. He was like, I tried that and he said that they need to know that the world is unfair. Something like the world is stupidly unfair and it's, and all your dreams will be dashed, that he needs a woman to know that. It's some kind of, I'm paraphrasing, but also a genius moment, something quintessentially Jewish, I think, in its the way that I guess Jewish culture represents itself, in humor. The fact that the world is just coming to fuck you over. I love that. And it's also like radical that like, a newly divorced man pushing 40 doesn't want a 20-year-old, I think that's also really, there are really, I think, many progressive things about Toby's character. But then, I think, as the show progresses, maybe not so much, but I think in the first episode at least, yeah.
Okay, so my last question. What
Yes.
did Libby get from Seth as a gift, and what do the notes say?
What did Libby get from Seth as a gift, and what do the notes say? I just don't remember. I just don't remember that. Yeah, why?
So he sent her by delivery a pack of cigarettes and a vape and said, a legend needs fire to burn.
Right. That's right. Because he was bemoaning the fact that she wasn't like smoking anything more, marijuana, cigarettes, pot, anything. That she suburban wife cliche, and then she was like, "Well, what would all the other moms think of me? They would just like chastise me. They would like, have me in some kind of purgatory for like smoking." Which is just sort of like all good commentary about like, why do you fucking care about what other mothers in a suburban like life think about you? But that is the whole thing about that life. That so much of like what happens is so insular and so kind of inconsequential, but like seemingly really important. Like what mothers think of you if you smoke or something. And then Libby's really fascinating. I like her a lot too. Hilarious. She's hilarious. I think that this the first episode when she was like, I'm trying to debunk all the Jewish woman cliches like about wanting a doctor. It's like because Toby at one point says, "Oh, I thought women wanted doctors," and she says, "No, our mothers want us to want doctors." And she's like, "I want to debunk all the Jewish woman stereotypes and not go for a doctor. I want to marry a lawyer." Is that in the first episode? Because I just gave away a great joke at the time. First episode. Did you see that?
No.
Okay, so it's not in the first episode. Sorry, that was a spoiler about a great joke, but I think in the context it's going to still be funny.
It may be in there. I'm trying to I remember her talking about a lawyer, but maybe I missed that quote.
Well, her husband's a lawyer. So that should have been the question I asked you. What does Libby's husband do?
Well, a lawyer, but he is the guy that played Ted Mosby in How I Met Your Mother.
Never saw one single episode of that show. Never saw one single episode. Did you have like a question on Neil Patrick Harris or something? Is that why you? Maybe it's a good show. I don't know.
No, I just noticed that's who he was. I was like, oh yeah, because I've been to that bar in New York as well.
Oh yeah, I don't know anything about that show. I just know that Neil Patrick Harris is on that show, and I did have a question on him when I was a kid. I think we were around the same age, me and Neil Patrick Harris, and when he was Doogie Howser. So I want to qualify that we were the same age. I had a crush on him as Doogie Howser, which and I was not surprised when he came out as being a homosexual. It wasn't surprising to me. So I didn't know about that show, that he's on it for that reason, but I never. I guess I don't continue to have a crush on him, but like I did, like when I was like 10 or something. But yeah, I didn't bother to watch that show. There's a film where he's a new TV show on Netflix that he's in when the woman from Will and Grace, the sort of the elaborate neighbor from Will and Grace. I don't really watch that show either, but anyway, she's on it. What is that show called? Like it's like he's having some like he's something's going on with his husband or something like that. I don't know. It's a sort of an all right show. Again, it takes place in New York. I kind of like. It's actually not dissimilar to Fleishman in that, like, I think Neil Patrick Harris is newly single and he'd been in a relationship for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years. And so then he hadn't been on any of the apps. And so there's this whole new app thing that he's exploring, like Toby's exploring, I guess. Is a newbie, but like, you know, but advanced in your life, like maybe in your 40s, you know, when you're like trying stuff out for the first time. Which I guess was the case for me too, actually. Like I probably didn't, yeah, log on to Grindr until I was 40 something. Because yeah, our relationship wasn't always been my partner. We've been dating from, well, it'll be 19 years, May 25th. So we've been together for a long time, and so our relationship being open is you know, fairly new in that 19-year progression. And so I guess I can relate to this, like, sort of like this new world of, like, you know, the apps or whatever, and the sort of the psychology of it, the politics of it. It's fascinating. I think it's a fascinating way that people are meeting each other, and trying to sort of like find companionship. My boyfriend and I met at a punk rock show. Like we met IRL. We did not meet online. So yeah, I love telling people that. Yeah, it was met at a punk rock show. Yeah. Do you have other questions for me about the show, about Claim to Fame, about my real life?
Yes, going to Claim to Fame. So what I want to ask about Claim to Fame, because I am doing a paper for class, and I did mention that, but well, to you and DMing, how do you think the show portrayed stereotypes from everybody? I mean, not that the show's not scripted, and I appreciate that. And I feel like I thought it was really funny that everyone did think you were a vampire. I mean, you do dress in all black.
I do.
Wear glasses a lot.
Yeah, I'm goth. I'm a goth. I mean, that's like, you know, I'm a Negro goth, but yeah, I'm a goth. So I mean, as far as stereotypes, I mean, I think it was hilarious. I think that the show, the vampire stuff that they did put in was hilarious. I found it really entertaining. I mean, I feel like if people have an initial impression of me that I might be a vampire, I think that I'm doing something right in terms of my like image presentation. Like I think that there's, even though I'm not technically a vampire, I think that means you're getting something about how I'm presenting myself in the world, which I think is positive. In terms of style, I mean, I think that there were many things about stereotypes around like race and or region, or like, you know, Southern accents and what they kind of imply. I think a lot of those things were maybe more, even as sort of past mates talked about that stuff way more than I think ended up on the air. I mean, I think on the air that stuff wasn't really a big issue. And it was a thing that we talked about, though, in the house, for sure. And there were like certain racial dynamics that were going on in the house that we talked about that didn't end up being on the air at all. And so, I mean, I think that, I mean, I think it's exciting that I don't know if we've ever seen in reality TV show history like a Negro Gothic person, you know, like a Black goth on reality TV. So maybe I'm the first Black goth to be on reality TV or something. Like, everyone's trying to be the first of something, you know, like this is always the first trans person to, you know, fill in the blank. So maybe I'm the first goth person. I'm kind of joking. But maybe it's true. Maybe I really am. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that the main thing that's really fast. I mean, maybe this is like not that fascinating, but I think the fact that we really all liked each other a lot. I think we got along really well, even though we were competing against one another. There ended up being some backstabbing, is the nature of the game. This is the nature of the way things work. Alliances formed, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But I think we all understand that was the game, you know, and I think that we all actually just like each other. I think we genuinely like each other across whatever those differences are. Like Logan and I got along splendidly. I think he was like afraid of me initially because he and Amara, they both sort of like had this sense that I could read everyone really well. Like I had this like, I could really sort of like look at you and sort of assess things about you in ways. And I think that because everyone's sort of trying to hide their identities, I think that like at least Amara and Logan both expressed to me some trepidation about me because they sort of felt like I could sort of just read them. And I mean, they're not wrong about that either. I'm actually really good at reading people. Not necessarily who they're related to or anything, but it's just like things about their personality and how things they're hiding about themselves, maybe like on a more psychological and emotional level, maybe not like. Although I did figure out, like one of the first days I figured out that Amara was related to Whoopi Goldberg, but then she was really good at deflecting from that. So then I like abandoned that, but I was like, she looks so much like Whoopi Goldberg.
They do look a lot alike.
I'm sorry,
They do look a lot alike.
a lot alike. I mean, they're like their mouth, their smiles are like exactly the same. I actually clocked that maybe the first day. It's not the first day, the second day, but then she was good at deflecting from that, and so I kind of abandoned it. But it turns out I was right. Yeah, I thought everyone was really. I mean, it was fascinating. Yeah, it was. It was a social experiment. It was actually really fascinating. All these different kinds of people. And I mean, I think that the thing that for me was the most interesting was people who were born into famous families. And versus the people whose relatives got famous within their lifetime, like within what, like I was already a fully formed adult when my sister got like mega famous. I was 40 years old actually. My sister got mega famous, so I'd already lived a full life. There wasn't like that level of like sort of fame and like sort of wealth that was like a part of my life. Where Dominic grew up, Al Sharpton's daughter. Well, Max grew up like the grandson of Chuck Norris. I mean, I think that there's a difference between, and like Hi, who's Tiffany Haddish's sister. Tiffany was, also got really famous more recently. So we didn't. I think the difference between those of us who grew up, not famous with famous relatives versus, to me, that was the most interesting kind of dynamic in terms of the differences. I think there's a really different. There's a kind of like. To me, Dominic just seems to use a kind of queenliness that one might have, being the daughter of this like extremely important person in the Black community for civil rights and that sort of thing. I think there's a kind of like. I think similarly, Max had some maybe levels of entitlement that only a person who grew up in a very like well-to-do context could happen. Again, I'm talking about class, but I think that growing up with money and fame, sort of in your family, you just a very different kind of person than you are when you grow up differently. When you grow up, sort of working class or poor, and that happens to you, or to your family. It didn't happen to me, but it happened in my family, which subsequently has an effect on you. It just does. And so to me, those dynamics are the ones that are the more interesting ones. I think that there wasn't any. I think racial biases were present there. I think that like maybe acknowledgement across race was harder for some people. Maybe some people are bigger in like Black popular culture, and some people are maybe bigger in like white sort of popular culture. So I think that those kinds of things like affected the game, affected how well people could play the game. But like I think Logan was the one who figured out who Dominic's father was. So I kind of already. Like but Logan is very culturally interested in Blackness. He's very Black adjacent. Logan, like he's very like into Black popular culture. Like intensely so. So that's not surprising. Logan's hilarious. He's like he's a good guy. Like he's a good. Just to hang out with him and drink, I don't drink, but I was hanging out one night when everyone else was drinking, like one late night. Logan was fun. After you get some drinks in him, he's hilarious. Actually, after all, all of us. It's actually probably for the best that some of that drunken night, most of that didn't appear on television. It's probably best for everyone. Not me. I was totally sober, so I was fine. Maybe not so much. It was an utterly unique experience that I don't regret. I don't regret that I did.
I can't wait for season 2.
I know, right? I just thought some kind of an ad for that, so I wonder who they will have on season 2. Are they filming it now? I feel like they might be filming it right now, actually.
I have no idea because I got greenlit for season 2, I think a few weeks ago.
Oh wow, so maybe they're not filming it right
not
now.
yet. They're probably looking for people.
But yeah, like if it's gonna air in the summer, it would seem like they need to be filming it now or start filming it soon. But maybe, maybe they're still in the casting. Maybe it'll like end up airing in the fall. I mean, you know, or the winter of 2024 or something. But yeah, it's curious to be a part of something that will like continue on. To be, I guess, the first cast of a show that's going to continue is fascinating. I'm curious. I wonder if they'll like have any interest in having any of the first season people back for some.
Yeah, and I asked Pepper that, and she said that she hopes so. She let the producers know that she wanted to come back.
Yeah,
like introduce a game or something.
yeah, introducing a game or kind of like being providing some kind of advice or guidance or something. Yeah, Pepper was one. She was really. I couldn't really figure out who she was related to. I was completely off on everything I could come up with. Pepper, also a total sweetheart. Total sweetheart. She's invited us to her. She has like property in Utah. She's invited us. I mean, yeah, I think actually a bunch of people did go hang out with her. I think around her birthday. A bunch of people from the show. I was like performing or something. I couldn't go, but yeah, lovely. Everyone's like it's been a very lovely post-show experience. Everyone's really lovely and wonderful. So all positive things. I know. I feel like reality TV sort of thrives on like drama, but like there's not like interpersonal drama really. We all like just like each other.
Well, I mean, because it was interesting because it is reality TV, but it's a game.
Yeah,
Playing a game. It's not like Big Brother is different. You're not trying to figure people out as much. This is you're always on the hunt trying to look for clues, even where there aren't clues.
yeah, there's not clues in many of the places we were looking at. And then there was also misdirection. I mean, I think they were really good at misdirecting. Like the producers with like clues that were just like sort of nonsensical or something. Yeah, and I think the people who were best at the game too were also really good at misdirecting. People sort of away from like Amara did pretty well with after I mentioned the big over thing. She just was pretty good at like moving me and everyone else in different directions. So yeah.
Did you when you felt the orange, did you feel like your game was over?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. I was like, why are they doing this to me? They're really, why the fuck are they doing this to me? She's already my thing. I mean, honestly, it's kind of absurd that I would even be on the show, really. I mean, we're like twins, you know? I mean, I think our style is really different. Our presentations are, you know, like I'm a man, she's a woman, you know, blah, blah. I think our presentation is really different, but I mean, we still look, you know, a lot alike.
You do look a lot alike, although you wear all black and she wears a lot of colors and complete opposite.
Yeah, she's you know, she's also a mainstream person. I'm like very much an alternative person. She's very much a mainstream person. In terms of like the aesthetically, you know, the aesthetics of like that looks differently, you know, like being like a subcultural person, you know, like looks differently than being like, you know, a mainstream like TV star. Yeah. She's a mainstream TV star, which is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's also fascinating her getting as big as she did, like, you know, sort of later. I mean, we were like 40 when Orange hit and she got, you know, was on the cover of Time magazine. We were like already 4 years old. So it's kind of like a crazy trajectory, but I mean, she's like, I mean, you know, she's ridiculously talented. I mean, I think that and I do think it's a talent that just can't be denied. I think some people just have that. Like, you know, Viola Davis is, you know, like she's always talking about being a dark-skinned Black woman and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, she's like unquestionably one of the greatest actors the country's we've ever seen, ever, anywhere. So I mean, it's like that kind of talent just can't be.
Well, and she just became an EGOT winner.
She did last night at the Grammys. Yeah, she did. I mean, she's just like it's just such a universally powerful talent that she had. I mean, it's just like so unquestionable. I mean, her connection to the humanity of all of her characters just brings us all closer to ourselves. That is what the grandest kind of art should do, bring us all closer to our own humanity. And Viola Davis is an undeniable talent. I feel the same way about my sister. I'm clearly biased, I guess, but I mean, I think the fact that she's become as successful as she is, I think is a testament to that. I mean, she's got crazy kind of obstacles. There were no trans women, you know, is regulars on TV shows or on covers of magazines before my sister came along. She is the goat in that in that sense, the first and the trailblazer on that front. And I think it's because of her talent. I don't think it's because of any kind of tokenism or any kind of like, you know, it's not like they're just running around trying to give all these like trans Black women parts in show. You know, we see like tens of thousands of them if that was the case. I think it's like a talent that can't be denied. And I'm honestly, for her career, I'm just excited for people to see just what an incredible. I mean, I think she's been nominated for Emmy Awards, so people I think get that she can really act, but there's so much more like to her instrument as an actor, and I'm excited for the world to see more of that for her. I just think she's so brilliant. I think she's such a brilliant artist. I mean, that's the way. I mean, we're culturally very different, but we're both artists, and that's the way in which we bond most. Is about art, the process of being an artist, like the technique of being an actor, the technique of being a singer, the technique of the mechanics of all this stuff, you know. We're obsessed with that, and we bond mostly about those kinds of things, the craft of being an artist. So yeah, I'm excited for the world to see more of what she's capable of as an artist.
Are you two pretty close then?
We are. We've gotten closer. We've always been really close. We've always been close. We've had difficulty, mostly because of me, because I'm my anti-establishment thing. I think was, you know, I think it just created like a risk between us that were kind of unnecessary. At different points, they were never irreparable. They were just like they just made some of our like interactions difficult over time. But I mean, I've grown a lot. I think we were able to. I think we're closer than we've ever been because I've just done a lot of work on myself. And, you know, I mean, I've been in therapy for, I don't know, at least 20 years, but like, it's finally started taking, it's finally like, you know, I've finally started to, let go of my anger and rage. That's all, my like adolescent anger and rage. My identity as a rebel, as this rebellious sort of anti-establishment figure was something I was really committed to. I really didn't want to let that go. I mean, maybe it's just age that's mellowed that, but it's also like just wanting to be happy, like being tired of being angry. Being angry all the time is really exhausting. Being full of rage all the time is exhausting. So luckily, I just got tired and wanted to try something else. And so that really helped our relationship a lot. We're wildly close, we're insanely close. I think I'm very happy about that. Because I'm not close to my mother at all. We don't talk. So I'm really happy that my relationship with my sister is as wonderful as it is. I feel really wonderful about it right now.
So did she watch the show?
I think so. I think she watched at least the first episode. She thought it was hilarious. I mean, her whole thing is she thinks I'm hilarious. Like, you know, like she just thinks like, yeah, the whole idea of me on a show like that is just, she thought it was hilarious. Like she thought it was ridiculous. I mean, I think it's ridiculous too. Just that alone was a reason to do it, the absurdity of it all. Besides the money, but the main reason I did it was I said for the money. But like the absurdity of it all, like it did delight me. Me kind of, you know, being the countercultural kind of person I am, the anti-establishment person I am, being in a context like that, it was just hilarious. She thinks I'm like funny. She thinks that all of my interviews were like funny. I mean, I thought so too, but I don't know if the humor landed. I don't know. Like part of it is just the whole thing. It's just ridiculous. Like me being on a show like that is just the whole idea of it. It's like completely absurd and hilarious and ridiculous. And so yeah. So I know she watched at least the first episode, maybe, and then she watched like, you know, the episode where I was eliminated. Because I mean, you know, that episode ended up being mostly about her. It's my like sort of exit speech about her. So she reposted that thing too. That speech. So yeah. It's a really interesting like foray into the mainstream. It's like very, I mean, there's something addicting about it. Like, I mean, the money wasn't insane amounts of money, but it's not insignificant, the money, and then just the drivers. Like I see cars all the time. Like over most of my life is like, even though I love the subway, I do mostly take cars, like Uber and Lyft and that sort of thing. But the car service, the way that, I mean, it's a different thing when you're on network television, the car service situation, and like the kind of hotel situations, they, you know, the way that you're taking care of it in a different kind of way than you are like doing the kind of work I do. Because I mean, I'm like routinely flown places and, you know, have per diems and that sort of thing, but this was like a whole other thing. And that is addicting. That's addicting. I mean, I think that like people say that it's much better to not ever have money than to have money and lose it, you know? And I think that's kind of the experience of like having like to be taken care of like that and to like sort of suddenly not have that is, it's not devastating, so, you know, whatever, it's not the end of the world.
Spoiled.
But yeah, you get spoiled. That's it. And I can see how it, you know, people can end up sort of chasing that, just to sort of maintain that kind of spoils or that kind of lifestyle. I'm not chasing it, by the way. I mean, if some another opportunity like that presents itself to me, then I'll look into it. But I mean, I'm very happy doing what I do, that I was doing before the show, and when I continue doing my own work, I'm very happy with that. So,
And that's all that matters.
I'm sorry.
That's all that matters.
It really is. It is. I mean, if another TV opportunity happens, then, you know, we'll look at it and see if it, you know, works with my schedule, with the budgets, you know, what the money's like.
I did see an article last night on The Traders. I don't know if you watched that. It's on Peacock.
I don't know what that show is. What is it about?
So it's kind of like The Mole in a way, or like The Hustler that was on ABC for a short period of time. It's hosted by Alan Cummings. There's, I think, like 16 or 20.
Actually, Alan Cummings' boyfriend did, Grant Schaefer is his name. He did an illustration with me in the New Yorker magazine in 2009 for an article that Hilton Als wrote about the show that I was doing. So that's my connection to. I think I've met him in person. I think I met him, but his boyfriend, I had his, you know, or husband. I think they're probably married at this point. But he did an illustration for me, or did an illustration of me, not for me, but of me that appeared in the New Yorker magazine. Anyway, fun fact. But anyway, Alan Cummings show.
So there's like 16 or 20 people on there. Half of them are reality contestants. Half of them are normal people. And then Alan chooses 3 people to be the traders. And so they're trying to make money, but they're also trying to be deceitful. It's a very interesting show. I like The Mole better, but hey, whatever. But I saw an article that said that Logan and LC would be really good contestants on The Traders.
Wait, who would be good contestants?
Logan and LC. So I'm curious if they're gonna like reach out to anybody like from Claim to Fame. And
I mean, I think that Logan and LC are uniquely qualified to. I mean, I think they're great reality TV. I mean, Logan, you know, like has that jawline, you know. I think all women, I think, really enjoy looking at him. Maybe some men too. Not my type, but I think that some men probably really enjoy looking at Logan, and LC is just. I mean, I immediately, like the first day I talked to LC, I was just in love with her. I don't see how anyone could not be in love with LC. She's just like, she's so, her spirit is so generous and so open and so. She's just a beautiful person. Like, she's such a really, 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 truly beautiful person, you know? Like, she doesn't have the challenges of, like, you know, me and Brittany and, you know, Michael. You know, we're like, I think we're beautiful people too, but we're more challenging. I think our personalities to sort of, I mean, I don't really see how anyone could just not fall in love with LC. LC is just like, she's so wonderful. She's just a beautiful human being. So, yeah, I would love that for them. They could be on the trade with Alan Cummings. Yeah, Alan Cummings is very interesting. He's an interesting actor. He's a very gifted, fascinating, like pop culture figure. Yeah, maybe I'll watch that show. I don't really watch reality TV. I like scripts and things and stories, but maybe I'll check that out because I do like Alan a lot.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but any fun behind the scenes stories? I mean, if you want to share about people getting drunk, that'd be great too. This is a drunk podcast.
Oh yeah, I'm not drinking. I don't really drink though, so that's
fine.
That's the thing. I mean, I think that there was a level of flirtation happening between Logan and any number of the women who were. I mean, there was the women far outnumbered the men, and I think only a few of the men were heterosexual. Like I get like Max was barely there. He was like there so briefly, and then I guess Michael was heterosexual, but I think he alienated himself from like a lot of the women in terms of romantic interest. So Logan was kind of just
I mean, in most of the show, it was just Logan and like the girls.
It was Logan and the girls, and I think they all, yeah, I think all sort of kind of had a crush on him, sort of kind of. And that night when we got really drunk, it was really, I mean, I just felt like there was a lot of flirtation happening. It was cute. That's all. I feel like I should say anything more than that. I think there was just a lot of flirtation happening between Logan and any number of the women in the cast. That's all. It was hilarious, and there was some. I remember Logan got really dismayed with me because he accused me of using like really big words all the time or something. I can't remember the word. I think I was talking. I always like talk about. I think maybe the how heterosexuality needs, like I was talking about earlier, it needs to really like reimagine itself or something. I said something about polyamory, and I guess he hadn't heard that word before or something. But then he was giving me a hard time about like my vocabulary or something. And he felt that down to alienating. But Logan's really smart though. He's like, graduated from college. Like I think he had a degree. I think it's a degree in political science or something. Logan's not unintelligent, but he was just giving me, and we had we actually had these like deep conversations about politics that, I mean, it's probably for the best they edited those out, because the conversations about politics mean that no one would have liked, the people who were on either side wouldn't have would adamantly not like it, because the way politics work these days is so divisive. But I mean, I think I will say that Logan and I definitely aren't on the same side politically, but we had very reasonable conversations about politics that were not.
And I think that's important, and people can't do that right now.
That people cannot do.
I got off of Facebook because so many people were hateful on both sides, and I'm just like, I can't deal with the hate anymore.
I mean, I think that fundamentally, I think that Logan and I both are coming from a place of love, though. I mean, that love is at the center of our politics. I mean, that we fall where we fall is different, but that love is like the basis of all that. So I mean, in the attempt at the fundamental humanity of all people, right? I mean, that should be honored. Some people don't think that other people who don't agree with them are human. Like it seems like that's what's going on right now, and that just means we're in some real trouble.
Yeah.
Politically, we're in real trouble. So I think that's the behind the scenes thing that didn't make it to television. That like we because he's from Georgia, so we were talking about Stacey Abrams, we were talking about who's it, Kent, the governor of Georgia. I mean, we're talking deep into conversations about that, and I mean, we're more on the same side. We did fundamentally respect and have a reverence for we found places of commonality in terms of where we agreed on. I really love talking about politics with Logan, actually. It was really fun. Logan's smart. He's a smart guy. I think he's got I think the world is his. He's 21 years old. He's got that jawline. Women love him. Young women love him. Old women love him. So I mean, I don't see how. And he can sing. He can sing and play guitar. He's actually very talented. So I don't really see how the world just isn't all his. It's like he could just. I don't know. Yeah, I feel like he's gonna blow up. I'm actually surprised he hasn't blown up yet. I kind of thought immediately he would just like have like major hits on like TikTok or something. His fan base is rabid from the show. The women of the show who liked him really like him. Who really like him. So I'm a fan of Logan as a person, but I'm a fan of everyone on the show. I really liked everyone. I liked everyone.
Who got the drunkest?
Logan.
Okay.
By a mile. Like no one else was even ever close. I mean, Lark's birthday happened during the show, and so she got pretty drunk on her birthday. Amara would be pretty drunk, but she handled. I mean, it was she was like it was. I think she was definitely really drunk because we saw her drinking a lot of alcohol, but she handled it really well. Logan. I mean, Logan could drink too, but like. Yeah, it was Logan by a mile. Though. I think he was absolutely the person who got the drunkest. I think it's sort of point where he's sort of like the guy with King. I can't do that anymore. I think he ended up doing it, but I think it was so bad that I think he professed that he couldn't do it anymore, drinking, because it was gonna like throw him off and he would get found out or whatever. But I think he ended up doing it again. But yeah, I think unquestionably, I think most people would agree that Logan was the most I mean, Logan really likes to drink. I mean, he's like. I mean, I think you know if you're gonna be an artist, a country artist, you gotta like really live it. You know.
Yeah.
I think he's really truly living it. You know, he's not like. There's no kayfabe if you're like professional wrestling. That's the term from wrestling, which is faking it basically. It's like the pretend world of wrestling in the kayfabe. He's not kayfabing it. He's like living that life, that whiskey life.
What was the conversation like after Maxwell got kicked off the show?
Everyone was sad. I mean, everyone really liked him. I mean, especially, I mean, Max and I especially really bonded. Like we still, I mean, we just texted with each other like last night. Like you sent me a text about something last night. I think everyone was really sad. I mean, everyone thought it was stupid, you know, that he would do that. But people really liked him. And he's adorable. He was like a total sweetheart. Max is a total sweetheart, you know. So I certainly was really sad. I think most of us were like really sort of sad. I mean, we knew people had to be eliminated and everything, but we thought that was just not the way, you know, he should have been eliminated like that. I think we were all really sad about it. And I mean, at that point, he was the person I really had related to the most. Like I just kind of felt like a connection with him that I didn't feel with anyone else at the time. But so maybe it was for the best he left because I didn't actually. Then like me and Dominic really like bonded after that. So maybe we would have bonded in the same way. You know, cliques form in these things. I don't know if Max and I would have been a clique, but we definitely really liked one another and really felt kindred spirit. You know? Yeah, it was mostly just like sad. We were just sad.
It was shocking at least for me watching the show.
It's pretty shocking, hilarious too. I mean, it was like the way he was trying to hide the phone, like
under the covers.
I was like, Max, like, what are you doing? It's so, you know, they're cameras, right? I mean, it's just like it's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Also, they searched all of our stuff like before we went to the house. They went through. I mean, like they went through every piece of luggage, every like with a fine tooth comb. I mean, they wanted to make sure we weren't bringing drugs in the house or phones or any kind of thing that would give us an advantage. So I'm like. Where was he? So my big question is, where were you hiding his phone, Max? You know, like
you ask him that. You can text him and ask him because I'm curious now.
Yeah, I know. We texted about so many things, but I didn't ask him that. I did comment on it in my interview after I don't think probably it's Disney, so I'm sure that's probably why they edited it out. But I'm like, where was that phone hiding? This was my question. Where are you hiding this phone? Because ultimately we would have to have a charger with them too. So like, you know, like they would have probably confiscated the charger too, you know, like, so, I mean, it really were like, I thought very diligent about making sure we didn't have phones, we didn't have like, you know, illicit substances of any kind. So, yeah, that is the question, where were you hiding that phone? There's only a few places really. They did not cavity search me.
I just thought it was odd that they didn't invite him back for the final episode.
Well, I mean, because he was disqualified. I think it was just sort of like.
I mean, yes, but like he was still part of the show. Like, he wasn't gonna. I mean, there was nothing to do. He just could. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think they take it because there's so much money involved in the rules. I think it becomes a legal thing at that point. Like before every challenge, a lawyer would come and sort of give a kind of a disclaimer and explanation before each challenge. I mean, it was very much. Because I mean, it needed to all be fair. It needed to be like I think they were just also protecting themselves. They didn't want to be able to get sued by any contestant or anything. So like lawyers were very much a part of every challenge we did. And I think it was just like it was just such a breach of what the rules were. And I think they just felt like they needed to like, you know, excommunicate him from the cast. I mean, I think it's sad. I would have loved to have seen him in the last episode, but I get it. Just because of like the extent to which lawyers were like all over everything. And he, you know, was just a major rule breaker for that. Because they have to take that stuff seriously because there's so much money involved, you know, they have to be really serious about that stuff. So yeah.
I just finished rewatching the entire season again this weekend. And I'm curious. I thought it was odd at the beginning, but rewatching him, did it feel weird that there were only like 20 people in the theater for the talent show?
I mean, I was shocked anyone was there, honestly. Um, I mean, for the talent show, I mean, no, I honestly didn't think about it. Like, I didn't think about it really. The number of people there. I thought, I mean, my main thing was I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this. It's so humiliating. I mean, I think that was my overwhelming feeling about having to do that talent show. That was just utterly humiliating. Like the audience was going to determine. Like, I just was like, why am I subjecting myself to this? Like, I would never in my actual life subject myself to such a thing. So, yeah, that was my overwhelming. So I mean, I was just kind of overwhelmed with that, and then I had this like then after the whole thing happened because I was in the top three. The show didn't show that, but like it was kind of like we had to do like a like there was like it was me, Logan, and Brittany who were in the top three, and there was they kept doing like this like having the us clap again, having the audience clap again for us three. That happened like 2 or 3 times before they realized it was Brittany was the winner or whatever. But I had this like super fan. Like, this I mean, like Logan, because Logan had a super fan. This woman who was like standing on her chair screaming, this like obviously a woman, yeah. Anyway, Logan had a super fan, but then I had this like there was a black dude in the audience who was like screaming and like losing his mind over me. So that was nice. So because I mean, mostly thinking this is the most humiliating thing I could ever do in my life. Like, why am I subjecting myself to this? And then there was this like rabid fan that I had who was like really super excited about what I did. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't thinking about the number of people in the audience at all, but I was just thinking about those things, how horrible this is, and then oh wow, this guy really like this is going hard in pain for me. And he was like ironically sitting next to maybe he came to the woman who was Logan's super fan, like they were like sitting next to each other. So she would jump on her chair for Logan, and he'd jump on his chair and scream for me. It's cute. And I mean, the other, I mean, I'm a really competitive person, so that was also the difficulty of doing a competition show because I do like to win. Yeah, what I do. That's why I don't play a lot of games because like there's always a learning curve in games. I can't handle losing that much to get good at a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like that, but it's like with that challenge I won the second episode or something of the challenge, and it was I think I was close to it. I was like, I hate losing more than I love winning. She would say, and I feel the same way. So yeah, so I mean, I think that like my competitive side made me happy that like okay, Logan, you got your super fan, well, I got my super fan too. The competitive thing, but art is such a you can't. Anyway, art isn't to me doesn't exist within the realm of that stuff. It's like about other things, art. It's about profound human experiences, bringing someone into that. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm curious if Brittany took her painting home.
if Brittany what?
If Brittany took her painting home.
I would imagine she did. Actually, I have no idea. Yeah, I really thought Brittany was like a major competition for me initially, and then I also felt like she was conspiring against me in the background. But I mean, she was to some extent, but it was more Lark. Lark was the one who actually eliminated me. So that was like I didn't see that coming, which is brilliant on the part of Lark. I mean, that was when I was being eliminated. I was like, God, I was thinking this woman's about to eliminate me. She's so beautiful. Like, I just kind of couldn't even look at her because she's so gorgeous. I mean, you couldn't be mad. I mean, it can be upset about it. So she's so nice, and then she's gorgeous. I mean, what I mean? She's standing there being like a sweet person and being so gorgeous. Like, how could I be mad?
So, who do you talk to the most out of the other contestants?
You mean now, Max? Definitely Max. Yeah, we have a lot. Strangely, I mean, we're very different in age, but we have a lot to talk about. Yeah, Max for sure, and then probably Dominic after that. Yeah, Max and Dominic. But I've talked to everyone. I've talked to everyone. So, but some people more than obviously some more than others. And yeah, definitely Max for sure. Yeah. And I just love everybody. I mean, like Dominic has a new show on Fox Soul. I'm really excited for her new show with her sister. yeah, I just loved everybody. They were great. It was really great. Dominic is really like I really felt a deep connection with her. Like when I was in the house, like I felt deeply connected to her. Um, it was beautiful. Like I thought what was happening between us was really beautiful, and that was happening between me and most people was beautiful and surprising. You know, the connections were it's such a unique experience. You know, like you and the had that experience. Yeah, I mean, because any other reality TV show cast is going to be different. You know, so it's not like I would have this like connection with everyone who's been on a reality TV show, but that particular cast, you know, I feel like there's a bond for life. You know, which is nice.
Do you feel like because you were the oldest player up there, did that play a factor into anything?
Um, I mean, I think it probably just. I mean, I think that it allowed me to be, you know, to not crack up like under the emotional pressure of the whole thing. Like, but I think I was, you know, I think my maturity was an advantage, even though I didn't last as long as I would have liked. I think that was really the only thing. I don't think, um, yeah, I don't think age was a factor. It's hilarious that one of the like Max said to me, he was like, "Oh, I don't think anyone over 30 would do very well in this game." I think we have an. Yeah, I mean, I didn't tell anybody how old I was, but like people were just assuming that I was, you know, like LC kept saying, "You're 28." Like I think you're 28. I was like, okay. Max was like, you know, they were just kind of going with this whole thing. So I'm like, okay, sure. I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, you know, we're trying to conceal who we were. I mean, I wasn't volunteering any information really about myself. But I think that was funny. But honestly, I don't think that I don't think age is like a thing. I don't think it's really a thing for a show like this. I really don't think it is. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is there a way you can imagine it being an issue?
Well,
Like being,
no, but I'm thinking of other reality shows. I feel like when people are older, sometimes it is an issue because there's such a big age gap. Not
mm,
always, but you know.
yeah, I mean, the person I got along with the best was like, I mean, Logan was the youngest person, but like Max is only like, I don't know, a few months older than, I mean, Max is like 21 or 22. Um, so he was the person I like got along with the best and like connected to the most. So, yeah, for me it was, but I'm not like, I don't, I mean, some older people think that like, they're like, I don't know, like they're superior or they have some kind of they have some life something or other that young people do. I've never felt that way about myself. You know, like I've never thought like you know, like so much more mature than some kid or something. You know, like I've just never been my mentality. So I mean, I can see that being an issue if you're like, oh, these like if you're like an older person who like these kids don't know anything kind of person. But yeah, I've never thought that. You know, I would be portraying myself when I was younger if I thought that. You know.
Right.
But I thought I knew everything. Like 19, 20, you know. I was obviously wrong, but you know, but I think you're supposed to think that when you're 19. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, that's what being young is about. It's about wanting to change things. It's about, you know, it's kind of radical becoming of yourself. So yeah, I don't. So for me, not so much. Like I've always related to people. Like I mean, I can't. It's hard for me to relate to people who are like, I guess, older and like kind of like with families and who are kind of somewhat provincial. Like that's always been like a more of a stretch for me than like relating to someone who's like, you know, has a youthful kind of wide-eyed optimism or something. Because I still feel like I have kind of almost a youthful wide-eyed optimism about my own life, especially, but about, you know, what's possible for me in the world. Like I still feel like I'm just getting started. Like I sort of feel like my life is just beginning, you know, in a
Yeah.
way. Um, and I kind of always felt that way, and I feel like I'm always reinventing myself. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, for me, I don't think it was an issue. I mean, I don't, and I think I did tell everyone how old I was, like when I knew I was being eliminated, and they were like, "Why? Why?" I was just like shocked, which is nice. I guess I don't know. I mean, in our ageist world, I guess it's nice to like not look your age if you're 15. Um, I guess that's nice. I don't know. I don't think there's anything wrong with like 50 either. There's like, you know, God, I mean, I had no desire to be 21 again, or 20 or 30 or 35. I mean, I really had no desire to be like, I really like myself more than I ever have now. I mean, I'm really just sort of like getting over all my childhood bullshit now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really happened in the last like 2 years, you know? It's just great to be me right now. Like, it really is. It's like, I'm in this like fabulous relationship with my boyfriend. Like, I'm in a great place with my work. Like, I really know who I am, you know, in a way that I just didn't before. Like, I'm thrilled, you know. But I'm not also not arrogant about it. You know, I'm just like, you know, like, it's a privilege to get older. I mean, the alternative is, you know,
Right.
you know. So I'm like, it's great. I love it. Like, I love I mean, I really do love everything about my life right now. I really do, more than I ever have before. It's great. I'm very lucky to feel that way. Like, I guess I never want to be like a lot of like gay men too, queer men, sort of like long for their youthful bodies or something, you know, in the marketplace, the meat market that is like, you know, sort of gay hookup culture. And I remember there was this guy who was like, I guess my age, he was like 32 or 33 or something, and he was like lamenting his 21-year-old body or something in the marketplace of sexual encounters. And I thought that was just so sad, you know, like, I just don't want to be, I don't want that to be me, you know, I don't want to be nostalgic for like my youth, you know, because I mean, it wasn't great, honestly, you know, my life was much better now than it was when I was like in my 20s. It's like so much better, like in every way, you know, like there's nothing, like, I'm having better sex now, I'm more desired by like more men now. I mean, you know, as far as like all that whole thing goes, I just like myself more now. I'm more comfortable in my skin now. I have a real voice as an artist that I didn't have, that I could only have dreamed about when I was 20, you know? And you have to make art for a while to like to really have your own voice. I've been making art for a while now, and I have my own voice, and I'm really, really proud of what that voice is. So, yeah, there's nothing I would trade for this moment right now in my life. Nothing. There's no other time in my walking this earth that has been better than this time. None. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be a thing though. I mean, I get like, because I have friends. I don't have that many friends my age, but I have a few who are very like, you know, like kind of arrogant about their age or something, or like relative to like younger people, and that seems misguided to me. It seems misguided. Like, I don't think that's like, I don't think it's accurate or correct. You know, this knowledge, this basic knowledge they seem to have over, you know. I think I mean, I think that people often need a way to feel superior about themselves, or to feel better about. They need ways to feel better about themselves, and so feeling like they're sort of maybe over someone who's younger, or have something over someone who's younger, is maybe a way to do that. And I genuinely don't feel that way. I don't think I need that in my life. I do feel better about myself now than I did when I was younger, but that doesn't mean that I'm better than anyone who's like 20 or 21 or 30, or, you know, it's just, everyone's journey is different. Like, I just try to keep focus on my journey, you know, like my particular path. I want to focus on that, and not like, you know, what other people my age or younger are doing, or how their careers are going, or, you know, like, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's only useful for me to like focus on myself, and like being able to live with myself, like myself, love myself, and what's going on with my work, and, you know, am I exercising enough, am I meditating enough, am I like being diligent in therapy, am I like, you know, so, you know, really using it for what it's there for, to process my experiences, you know, that's a lot of work, you know, like, just to do all those things. I can't really worry about it. Like, you know, if I'm like so much like wiser than those kids over there or something, you know. I don't know. I mean, I'm imagining that's the way that's the only way I can imagine age playing itself out in a show like this, you know. Unless you're like, people know how old you are. Yeah, I feel like I feel like I watched Celebrity Apprentice when Vivica A. Fox was on or something, and I feel like someone was like age shaming her or something. I feel like maybe someone was saying something. I feel like that happened in that show. So I mean, like there's that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Where people try to age shame you or whatever. Yeah, that didn't. I mean, I was passing for someone much younger, so that didn't happen to me. So I don't know. I guess if I wasn't passing, maybe it'd be different. Yeah, I mean, I guess it helps if you're like 50 and you look like me, you know. People that I just said that people are gonna hate me for saying that, but you know, it doesn't hurt. I mean, maybe I look 50. I don't know. I am 50 years old. I feel like I never look better than I have any other point in my life. I feel like I look really, like I feel like I like my body more, like my skin more. I mean, I actually take care of my skin. Like I actually like wash makeup off my face at night, which I didn't do. I started doing that 5 years ago. Yeah, I'm just like taking care of myself. It's nice to take care of yourself. I got, you know, those black people genes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people like hit a certain kind of like I was talking to my sister about this. Some people hit like their stride in their 50s. Like, they just like glow up in some way. I mean, like there some people, you know, not many people. Some people, I don't know. I feel like I'm just hitting some stride in my life where like, you know, like I just feel like anything's possible now. Anything. I just feel like the world is mine, you know. And I didn't always feel that way, but I feel like that right now. I really do. I feel like it's on, you know. Like I just feel so excited about like life. I'm also, this might be the first time in my life I'm not in some sort of depressive spiral. Like I mean, you know, part of the thing about being goth is it is a aestheticization of chronic depression. I think partially, you know, the aestheticization of, you know, chronic depression, and this is the first time in my life I haven't really been suffering with intense depression too. So maybe that's like, I'm just happy, you know, for the first time. Like just happy and joyful. And prioritizing that and like having that be a goal. Like, I mean, I have my goals to be, you know, happy. I used to always like, I'd be on the phone with Laverne years ago and I'd be like, she'd like, I just want you to be happy. And I'd be like, happiness isn't the goal. I say to her, and I said that to her the other day. She's like, "Do you remember I said it?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I remember you saying that." And it is the goal now. It is. I was definitely a difficult person to love, I think, back then. And maybe easier to love now. So I'm not so doomed. I was very doomsday back then. I mean, although the world now is a bit closer to kind of apocalypse now than it was there. But I'm happy. I could be happier. Horrible things are going on, but like, I'm personally doing really well.
Good. So you're a composer, an artist, a sculptor, correct?
I compose music, I sing, I play piano, and I do visual art. I got my degree in undergraduate degrees in painting and sculpture, and I went to Yale for 1 year in the sculpture department before I dropped it.
Yeah, why'd you drop out?
I hated Yale and I hated the art world, and I wanted to focus more on music, and my focus there was really on making things like objects, sculptural things, and I wanted to get more intense with like study. I wanted like to train. I wanted that to be my full-time kind of my gig was music. I wanted to like take music theory. I wanted to sing piano. I wanted to sing tons of voice lessons. I wanted that to be the thing I was doing. So and I hated Yale too. I just hated it there. And I was leaving. I'd be in Yale for like 3 days a week, Monday through maybe Wednesday, and then I'd come to New York and then I was performing. And the tool of like performing in New York was much more seductive to me than like being in Yale, like dealing with like all the kind of like careerism of the art world. Like it was never very interesting to me. And people were it was a very careerist place. You know, I told people in the program I was in that I was going to leave. They're like, "You can't leave, this is your golden ticket." They were just insisting that it was like the worst thing I could have done. Just through that program, and that even solidified more why I should leave. Like people just sort of believing that this is a grand opportunity. I mean, I guess it is. I don't know. Haven't heard of any of the people in my program since then. Maybe they're doing really well in the art world. I don't know. I don't follow that closely what's going on, the minutiae of the art world. At least, I mean, I'm sort of kind of in the art world. I mean, I do a lot of work. A lot of the performances I do end up being in the art world. I've done a few exhibitions in the last like 10 years. So some of what I do, I mean, I ended up sort of back in the art world because the music I make is more art music than anything else. It's more kind of the artsy side of things, and so it makes more sense sometimes in the art world. Where like this big piece I did was we did it at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in 2019. So I mean, I'm sort of still in the art world, sort of, kind of, but I'm kind of not. I kind of not though. I mean, I'm kind of a. That's the thing about it. I sort of feel like I was on a reality show, but I kind of wasn't. Like I sort of like, even though I mean technically I was on a reality show, I kind of feel like I wasn't. Like my presence couldn't be fully grasped on a reality show, and I feel like my presence in the art world can't be fully grasped, and my presence in the music world can't be fully grasped. Like I sort of feel like I'm more of a specter everywhere. Like I'm sort of just a ghost, like sort of haunting various contexts in which I exist but don't exist, and I like that. I think it's fun. Because I have a lot of mobility. Like I have a lot of, like I can be kind of everywhere but nowhere at all. And I like that. I can operate in the art world. I can like play in like, you know, basements where people like do punk shows or noise shows or metal shows. Like I mean, my life is like, so you know, there's somewhere between like concert halls where I do my work, recital halls or like museums, and then like, you know, DIY basements or like rock clubs. There's like a metal club called St. Vitus here, where like a lot of metal bands play, and I've played there like 3 times. So I kind of love that about my life, like my career. It's a very um, even though like the genre of music I make is its own thing, it's somehow mutable to lots of different contexts. Like I can exist in lots of different places, and I like that. And yeah, I mean, I like this weird career I had. Like I was after Claim to Fame like last April, I did a European tour where I played like seven cities. That was really fun. And then I just did like, I'm working on a new piece with these musicians in San Francisco, so I like was there for all of last week, and then I played a show last week that was sort of separate from the piece we're working on. Yeah, I love my life. Like I love that I can like sort of run around the world like playing shows and making music or showing films. Or I'm gonna be this exhibition in Canada like later this year, like a video that I made. It's gonna be an exhibition in Canada. So I mean, yeah, it's a lovely life. I like it. It's weird. Like, I think it's not, doesn't make any sense to. I think a lot of people don't understand what it is that I do. Like my other castmates, I think it's fine. I think they don't understand that I do anything really. I think that it's like incomprehensible whatever it is that I do, because it's not like consumable within like a capitalist like framework, you know, within market forces. So but I love that. I love my life. I love that I can exist and not exist at the same time. It's a privilege.
Okay, well, I have 2 questions before you go because I have kept you a while. Are there any jam sessions going on in the house?
There was one night when we all started like, because Dominic is a singer too, and Logan, we all kind of started singing. We were like I feel like I was singing like sort of songs I sang in church, and then Dominic kind of started singing along. And I think after I left the house, I think there were maybe more jam sessions that were going on, but nothing ever happened to me and Logan maybe, which I guess would be more logical or something. Or me and Michael. Michael's also a music producer. That didn't happen while we were there, but there was one night when we were in the kitchen singing like gospel songs, something mostly. That was really fun. Yeah.
The show needs to release the DVD with the deleted footage.
There's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's endless. I mean, I think that it's like what, like 24 hours a day. I mean, that's like it's endless. The footage is endless. I mean, there was some fun things like that. Like there was I think there were cameras in the bathroom, but like after Michael was eliminated, like I was doing like naked jumping jacks in my room. But I was in the bathroom, so there were no cameras there. But like, you know, like they're fun. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine there would be lots of entertaining outtakes. I mean, I think there's some hilarious stuff happened. I mean, some of the conversations Michael and I had were hilarious. Yeah, just that funny stuff. Some funny stuff I think made it to the television. Like my diabolical laugh like made it to the television.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. We had a good time. It was good times. And I mean, I'm just really happy that I didn't like lose my mind and like, you know, mentally. A lot of people, that happens to them in that kind of like best. So I'm happy that I, you know, kept my cool. Was
Right. Well,
level-headed.
and that's kind of my last question. Was it was it a nice break, mental break for not having your phone, not having a TV, not having a laptop, not having like any electronic device to
I mean, it's like definitely serious like withdrawal. I mean, there's like serious kind of like you're fiending like a heroin addict or something. I mean, seriously. I mean, I think we're all addicted to our phones, and so that definitely happened initially. But what I found, I was so looking forward to. Also, I miss my boyfriend. Like I typically talk to my boyfriend every day. Like the last 18 and a half, almost 19 years, we talk every day. So not being able to talk to him, and actually Vern said it was torture because whenever she's having like some kind of a dilemma, I mean, I used to be taken granted because she could just call me, you know. She even more than my boyfriend was believing that she could just like call me. But what was crazy though is I you know, like I'm like on social media like every day or whatever. I hadn't missed anything, you know. That was what was like I like it was like nothing had happened, you know. It was like the same thing. I hadn't missed anything. Like being off of all that stuff. So it's kind of it's a pointless distraction. Our phones and the internet, for sure. And I think being on the show like that, it brought that back home. Because when I was back to my phone, I was like, oh yeah, nothing's happening here. Like what was I like so anxious to get back to? I mean, you know, certainly being able to literally talk to my boyfriend and my sister and other good friends is you know, it's lovely. It's life sustaining. Like the relationships you have in your life, you know, it's like the very important things. So the most important thing in your life, the people. And so being out of touch with them is hard. But I think it was really good though. I think it was really good not to have that for sure. For sure, for sure, for sure. Character building. Yeah, I should do that more. I should just like impose that on myself. Like yeah, those character.
well, good. All right. Well, tell everyone else to come on the podcast.
I will. I will. Also, yeah, I did this podcast the one Pepper did. It was fun. Everyone should do it. People are busy. I know Max is super busy. He's like doing like he's I can't tell you actually. He's very busy. Dominic's very. I mean, everyone's you know people I talk to the most. They're very busy right now. So
And Max lives in Denton, correct?
in Texas, yes.
Okay. My niece lives there.
Wow. Do they know each other? Did they go to college together or something?
I don't think so.
Interesting. Yeah, Max is a sweetheart. He's a total sweetheart. Love him.
He's involved in like, well, because Denton is very art and music based.
Very art music based and very leftist, from what I understand, which is unusual in Texas. Like politically very left, from what I understand. Denton, I don't know if your niece has that experience of it, but it seems like an anomaly in Texas. From what I understand.
I don't know. She's in a band called Nip Slip.
Oh, I think I know her band. I think I feel like Max and I were talking about. I feel like he must know that band. I think there's. I mean, I have to look it up. I think there's a connection. I sounds so familiar. I feel like there's a conversation we had. They're in Denton. Yeah. Did she play something? Did she sing? Like, what did she?
She's the singer, the lead singer.
Yeah, band culture. All my friends are in bands. All my best friends in New York are like band people. Musicians are my favorite people to hang out with and to like, you know, bond with. Yeah, music is everything to me. Everything to me. Yeah. Well, say hi to your niece for me. In Denton, Texas. I think I may have heard her band. I think so. Nip Slip. Her nips aren't slipping out, are they?
There's no telling. She's. I have no idea. I haven't seen her perform. Well, I haven't seen her perform since she's been in that band.
Well, she may not be willing to let her nips slip in front of family members. It's always weird when I used to be half naked in my old band. I would be like, I just wear like a leather G-string or something. You know, it's like weird with your family, you know? Yeah, it's weird. Like my mother follows me on Instagram and like, anyway, like there's a lot of me shirtless on Instagram, like I'm posting a lot. It's weird to see it. Or like my bulging on my pants and stuff. Like it's weird for your parents to see that stuff, you know?
Right. Well, on that note.
It was lovely. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Come back anytime.
Yeah, no, this was fun. I strangely watched a lot of television, so we can talk about another show at some point too. Do you talk about shows that aren't on the air anymore? Because I mean, like, I had this like love affair with Breaking Bad. Like, I think maybe I'm over Breaking Bad because I think at this point it's maybe really dated or something. But it's one of my favorite shows of all time, really. And then Better Call Saul was phenomenal. I don't know if you watched either of those shows.
I loved Breaking Bad. I actually like Weeds better, but I had
Okay.
watched Weeds first, and I think that came out first too.
I think
But
it
I'm
did.
also a fan of Mary Louise Parker. I
Yeah, I don't.
I have not watched Better Call Saul yet. I've been worried about watching it. I don't know why.
It's a genius show. I think I like it in some ways better than Breaking Bad, actually. In some ways, there's something about like there's uh, Saul's brother in this like the storyline develops between the brother and Saul is so good and his girlfriend. Um, and then Mike, Mike from Breaking Bad, the enforcer, Gus Fring's enforcer. Gus Fring um, is one of my favorite characters on television of all time. I mean, I love Gus Fring. Gus Fring is like, and he's very much a part of Better Call Saul as well. It's worth watching just for Gus and Mike, honestly. Gus is like because we get more of his backstory. It's clear, I think, in Better Call Saul that Gus is gay, and that like the person, his party that was killed was his gay lover. I mean, but yeah, Better Call Saul is I think pretty genius television. Actually, the pacing of it, the photography, it's beautifully shot. It's a beautifully shot show. Um, yeah, it's really fantastic. I recommend it highly. Maybe watch a few episodes and we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Breaking Bad, though, I mean, one of the things about Breaking Bad that I always have to say is that it's really a show about patriarchy, about these two. It's really about Mike. Wait, what's his brother-in-law's name? Hank. It's really about Hank and Walt, and this sort of like these different patriarchal paths. Like Walt is this sort of failed scientist who isn't, actualizing his patriarchal like possibility, who's failing in patriarchy when we sort of begin the show. And Hank is this like cop, this like sort of pillar of patriarchy or whatever, and then the roles reverse as the show progresses, and it becomes more about like how Hank is failing at becoming this like patriarch, or fulfilling his patriarchal potential, where Walt is excelling in that. And patriarchy means killing, robbing, being dishonest, and making lots of money, and being like a hardworking being, which is kind of what patriarchy. That's like how it's represented in television and film and cinema, that patriarchy is this like monster. You have to be this sort of horrible human being, a man, a predator, all these things that Walt becomes. And it becomes this sort of story about like these two diverging paths of masculinity, I think, which is so, I mean, I never met this all, but in terms of the sort of the bigger plot with the whole thing, that's really interesting. Breaking Bad. Anyway, yeah, if you want to get into the bigger themes of these shows, because I'm all about the bigger kinds of sort of messaging that's going on, the super text, super objectives, of these shows. Anyway, we have a lovely rest of your day. What is it, Monday? Yeah, it's Monday. Although who knows when this is gonna come out, but yeah, maybe I shouldn't say that sort of thing. So we're filming this on a Monday. It's a Monday after the Grammys.
It is. Hopefully, this will be out next Tuesday.
Fun. Fun. I can't wait. I'll tell people to go listen.
And since you are a big TV fan, I go to a TV festival every year in Austin. So you should check.
Yeah. When is that TV festival?
This year I think it's June 1st through. Hold on, I'll look.
I don't watch everything. I'm really selective about what I watch. Like I haven't seen Weeds, by the way, and I have no interest in ever watching it. Or Have Met Your Mother. Like the a lot of things I just refuse to watch. So I mean, I think true TV people, they try to watch everything and have some kind of like take on everything. I just watch very selective things. Like I rarely watch. Yeah, I don't really watch reality TV, and I've never seen any Housewife anything. So I mean, there are particular shows I'm very interested in for very particular reasons. Succession, I love Succession. I think that's one of the best shows on television. And I loved actually White Lotus, especially the first season. The second season of White Lotus was really fun too, though. Yeah, Jennifer Coolidge is a national treasure, I think. But I think she really solidified herself as a gay icon in White Lotus. Not that she needed to be anymore, but really, truly. I like a icon for the ages. Jennifer Coolidge. So yeah. Anyway, I feel like I should let you go because I used to be talking. So
the festival is June 1st through the 4th, but you can also watch it online too.
Brilliant. Maybe I'll do some of that. I love analysis. I mean, I think the thing I love about narrative the most is how you can analyze it, and it says so much about our culture, says so much about social and cultural dynamics, political dynamics. So I mean, television ends up being a universal way of engaging in analysis that can reach lots of people. So maybe I love it more. I mean, I guess I like cheap entertainment. I just watched Angel, that Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah.
I just rewatched that because it's sort of silly and goth sort of. So I mean, there's no analysis. I mean, there's analysis that happens that's deep, and all the analysis that I have about Angel is deeply problematic. It's a deeply problematic, deeply sexist show, somewhat racist show. But I was just watching it for fun. We're watching it for fun. So yeah, not everything's about analysis, but for me, I think mostly it's about the analysis. I love analysis. I love being analytical about things. So yeah, TV is a great chance to do that. And pop culture in general, analyzing what's popular, why, and what it says about our culture, where it says about where we are politically in terms of representations of race and gender and class. Love that shit. Anyway, will you enjoy the rest of your Monday, Lee?
You too.
And let's again. I had a blast. Okay, I'm gonna log off.
Okay. Well, thank you. Bye.